Good evening. Welcome to the December 4th regular Village Council meeting for, again, December 4th. Judy, if you mind calling the roll, please.
All right, Stokes.
I am here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Hausch.
Here.
McQueen. Here. We are expecting Carmen Brown at any moment. Also present is Planning and Zoning Administrator Mike Leatherman, Solicitor Amy Blankenship, Interim Village Manager Johnny Burns, and Police Chief Birch.
All righty. Well, I understand we have some swearings in. Are we?
I think that's the family out there.
Sounds like a family
Okay.
coming in.
All right. So we'll talk real slow as we welcome the family members in.
Good evening.
All right. Are we all here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I will hand the floor to Chief Burns and/or Johnny.
Thank you guys very much. So, very, very happy to be here this evening to swear in our newest officer, Josh Varble, like Marble, which is how he introduces himself when he's out in public. So I just have a brief background I'd like to share about Josh. Josh has actually been with us now for, I think we're going on 14 weeks, give or take. He finished his field training. We're moving swearing-ins to after they finish their training now, just to make sure they make it. Not that we had any questions about Josh here, but so Josh was actually born and raised in Worthington, which is in Columbus. He attended a private liberal arts school where he got his Business of Administration and Criminal Justice. That was Muskegum College. For the last 6 years, he has worked for the as the security director for the YMCA of Central Ohio's permanent supportive housing and homeless shelter operation in Franklin County. They served upwards of 1,500 clients, and it was the largest in the United States. Their focus there was providing basic needs to individuals in crisis, as well as providing wraparound services to help them get back on their feet and into permanent housing. He says to me, I had a passion for teaching crisis intervention techniques, and during my tenure, taught and certified hundreds of team members in methods that would turn escalated situations into peaceful resolutions. For 16 years, I maintained a part-time police officer position as a hobby, but decided in 23 that he'd like to turn it into a career and joined us at Yellow Springs. Yellow Springs is a community he says he feels it's been a good fit for his experiences, and he's enjoyed his first few months with us. He's joined tonight by his wife, Casey. The two of them live on a small farm that they purchased during the pandemic, and this year they actually had their first run at raising livestock. I think he just processed, how many pounds of beef did you?
1,400.
Lots of beef, so you need a big freezer for that.
So where's the cookout?
Josh's wife, Casey's a clinical nurse manager for Ohio Health's Urology Department, which is based in Dublin. And of course, they have two beautiful children that are here with us tonight, Juliet, who's 9, and their 2-year-old son, August. So we are very, very fortunate to have Josh, who has had nothing but positive interactions in the community so far. And I'm just very honored to have you. And I also want to say, Casey, thank you, because law enforcement is a career where we definitely take up a lot of their time, and they bring it home. I know that. So welcome, Josh, and we're so glad to have you. So.
Great.
All right. I guess it's my turn now.
Why not?
Swearing in here?
Yeah.
All right. Do you agree I solemnly swear
I solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and will obey the laws of the United States
and will obey the laws of the United
and of the
States
state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
that I will,
that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
observe the provision of the Charter
observe the provisions of the Charter
and ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs,
and ordinances of the Village of Yellow
and
Springs,
will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of.
of the office of police officer.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice. All right. Thanks, sir.
Good to meet everyone.
All right. Well, welcome to the entire Varble clan. And we are waiting to hear about the cookout.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Well, okay. So we're down to announcements, and I'll start off with just sort of an update, if you will, on the tree lighting ceremony, which was a grand affair indeed. Really want to thank the folks here on village staff, Johnny, your crew, and the folks at the Chamber of Commerce for that joint effort, putting together a grand celebration. There was lots of joy and merriment had by all, lots of singing, lots of fun, and we had the real Santa Claus. He passed the beard test. So we're really excited about that and just really look forward to continuing, that spirit of joy and peace and humanity throughout the rest of the year and into the next. I don't have anything else official to say on that matter, but just want to again thank everybody for helping making that such a glorious event. Any other announcements?
Well, I do want to thank the Unitarians for another amazing community Thanksgiving. And Carmen, do you want to say anything about that?
We served 174 people, I think. Wow. It was in the kitchen from 7 in the morning until 7 p.m.
Yeah, definitely. Carmen was
It was like working a job.
You were moving it, man.
Wasn't like
I was impressed. So, and I wanted to recognize we recently lost two community members who made many contributions in this venue. One of those was Demi Reber, and I remember many times where she was guiding us in good ways about thoughts that we should have on certain decisions. And also many of you I'm sure know Paul Moynihan, and Paul was famous for some for having that late night bakery that was before my time, but I miss, and also used to come to council meetings and weigh in with his own unique perspective. And the last thing I wanted to, I guess, announce is after reading a variety of letters and whatnot related to several recent discussions that council has or is having, I wanted to highlight that, believe it or not, we know a lot of what's going on related to the different aspects of, whether it's, covenants on land or whether it's, a variety of other things. And although we may be exploring other perspectives on issues, my perspective is that I and my fellow council members are pretty well read on the various issues. That being said, I really appreciate that citizens are highlighting things that we are reading and considering, but rest assured, we are well informed and we do our homework. So that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Anyone else? Any announcements? All right. Moving on to consent agenda. The only item that we have are the minutes of our November 20th regular session, and I understand there was one modification, but can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Do we need to discuss the change, or since we've seen it, we move forward? Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The motion is passed. Thank you very much. All right, review of the agenda. Is there anything on the agenda as presented that needs to be removed? Any new items which we're very hesitant to consider, by the way? We are very hesitant to consider new items just because of our process. So, again, I will open again the dais
Really quickly,
to comments.
Old business, board and commission communication with staff. You take it off.
Okay.
Okay, and in that place,
So you have a 5-minute item to replace that 5-minute item?
let me So it's something that we want to have added, or Brian and I have been talking about added to next meeting agenda, but we want to have time to just say what it is. Do we want to
So that
put it
wasn't,
on new business or just put it down at agenda plan?
Yep, I think future agenda planning is good.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay.
so not in that place or in place of that?
It's not.
Okay, so in place of that, I'd like to just have I have a quick memo regarding my attending the State Senate Select Committee on Housing meeting in Marietta today.
Oh, nice. Okay. All righty. Anything else in review of the agenda? Oh, yep. Okay, all right, so we're good? All right, thank you very much for those updates. Now to petitions and communications. Gavin, if you would, please.
The clerk will receive and file an email, or I guess letter, I think it was an email from Dino, Pallotta, about the CBE and housing comments, from Johanna, Northway, about CBE and housing comments, from Jonathan Platt, about invitation to StoryChain open house, open, I think it's house, right? It says house here. And
That's what it says.
and then Marcia Walgren about the CB and housing comments as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Gavin, for that. Brian, are you open?
Always.
All right.
Yes.
Good to know, good to know. Before we go into public hearings and legislation, we do have 2 second readings, so I will entertain a motion that would be allowed to read those second readings by title only.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So Judy, second reading and public hearing of ordinance 2023-41, if you could introduce that by title only, please.
Indeed. This is accepting Planning Commission's recommendation and approving the final plat for the Spring Meadows Subdivision Phase 1.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Meg.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and get a motion before she...
Thank you very much.
Otherwise, I tend to forget, so...
Yeah, that previous motion sort of threw me off. So on this piece of legislation, can I have a motion to discuss it, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, it's... No.
Look, I said we're not voting till later.
Sorry.
All
I know we got sort of thrown
do
off
it.
there.
Yeah. I guess I was hoping this was the second thing you did and not the first thing.
I appreciate you're moving it right on ahead quickly.
Yeah. On the future agenda. All righty, yes, yeah, future agenda items. No, I'm sorry, Meg. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Go
Sure, I
ahead,
have lots of patience. This is the second reading for a Phase 1 final plat application at the Spring Meadows Subdivision. It's located at 402 Wright Street. The first reading was with council on November 20th, and the code requires a second reading and a public hearing at the second reading. The Phase 1 final plat is for 56 single-family homes with 3.30 total acres of open space on 15.51 acres of total land. Construction of all public improvements, so streets, sewer, water lines, sidewalks, et cetera, have been constructed and are nearly complete, with the exception of a few outstanding items that have been bonded for, and bonds have been submitted to the village and are being held in our finance department. There were 2 items at the last council meeting that were requested that I report back at this meeting with, and I'm prepared for those. The first one is parkland dedication, and then the second was landscaping in relation to the stormwater pond. For parkland dedication, the code includes a calculation to determine the total land required based on the number of new residents, and allows for a combination of land contribution and in lieu fee. In Phase 1, the applicant will dedicate 0.46 acres to the village as a park and has purchased playground equipment that will be installed, valued approximately over $75,000. If the applicant was solely contributing land and not purchasing and installing a playground, the total land required would be 0.84 acres. So the combination of the 0.46 and the playground equipment was considered to be addressing the code requirement. The playground equipment was reviewed before it was purchased by the developer by staff, and village staff signed off on it in advance of them purchasing the equipment. The type of landscaping was brought up at the last meeting, and surrounding the stormwater pond. We reached out to the applicant to get clarification, but also provided the council in their packet a copy of the construction documents related to the stormwater retention area and the landscaping plan that's included in the construction documents. The area surrounding the stormwater pond is planned to be seeded grass that are native. They are native to the region. Matt Hoying is here in attendance tonight as well, our engineer, right next to me, in case there's specific questions related to the landscaping that you have or other questions. And also the president of DDC is here, right next to me, Bill, available for questions if you have any. I did want to restate the conditions of approval. Staff is recommending that since the majority of the project is constructed as required by code, and Planning Commission approved the preliminary plat, that we recommend approval of the Planning Commission's approval, and with associated conditions of approval that I'll read now. Lots of approvals, sorry. Didn't mean for that. So the conditions of approval are as follows. Variation to allow a side yard setback of 5 feet minimum, 10 feet total, only for even encroachment. The second one, Lot 57 will be dedicated to the Village of Yellow Springs prior to approval of the last certificate of occupancy for Phase 1. Lot 58 will include a meandering natural path that will connect Kenneth Hamilton Way and run in between lots 8 and 9 to Snowdrop Drive and connect to Lot 57 and Lot 58, and the natural path and retention basin will be maintained by the homeowners association. Lot 59 to be maintained by the homeowners association as well. And then I'll go ahead and stand for any questions, or if anyone else with me today can answer questions too.
Why don't we go ahead and formally open up the formal hearing at this point so that we can have questions both from council and from any residents or any other participants. So the public hearing is open, and so yes, go ahead, Marianne.
At the last meeting, I registered my concern about the safety of the pond. I've just completed a lifeguard training, so I'm very much in my head about people not drowning. I was the only one that seemed to have a concern about this. And, you know, I come back, I grew up when you got kicked out of the house in the morning and you came home at night and you wandered all over the place. Maybe that doesn't happen anymore, but I'm wondering since I'm the only one, I would hate, and I know we all would hate, it would only take one accident to be a tragedy. What is it that people feel makes this safe and not a concern?
Council, or are you asking me?
Anybody. I mean, I was the only one that
I think we heard from Matt last time, is that right? Matt, if you would, can you restate the kind of precautionary measures that come with that kind of pond in a residential neighborhood?
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Hoying, Choice 1 Engineering. This pond was constructed with a 5-foot wide safety ledge, and I think last meeting 2 weeks ago I misspoke. I said that ledge was at 3 feet deep. It's actually at 2 feet deep. I've got the plans here with the detail on it that I'm happy to show anybody that has questions. But essentially what that safety ledge is, it's a flat spot at 2 feet below where the water will be at its normal point. You know, at its highest when it's raining, and you know the water will be elevated a little above that, but at its normal point on a sunny day when you may anticipate people to be out running around, possibly seeing a pond and thinking, hey, I'm going to jump in and cool off or whatever. It's that safety ledge is there. And I will say, one, this safety ledge is what would satisfy the village standard requirements for a stormwater retention basin, a basin that's going to hold water in it on a regular basis. But not only village standard, but also a standard in many municipalities in Ohio. We work more specifically in Western Ohio, but in our communities that we work in, this is a standard safety element. I think there was some conversation about potentially a fence at the last meeting. Fences are really something that we do not see utilized very often in these type of situations for a variety of reasons. One, honestly, there's not a lot of data that suggests that retention basins are not safe, that there's drownings or things in it. Could it happen? Yes, but it's a very, very, very low likelihood. I honestly am not aware of a single case where that has happened. But the other reasons against fences are this is something that is supposed to be maintained by the HOA. If a fence gets put up, that may or may not happen over time, so it typically becomes some sort of an eyesore. Plus, we have heard in the past, not in Yellow Springs, but in other communities, from the fire and EMS personnel, they actually would prefer not to have a fence, so that if they ever do need to get down in there for recovery purposes, that fence is not in their way. So this safety ledge, like I said, 5 feet wide, 2 feet below the water level. I've got 5 kids myself. The youngest is 18 months. So she's just starting to walk. She's above that 2-foot height mark. So I'm thinking that this more than satisfies that, and it satisfies the village standards as well as what is typically constructed for these type of stormwater retention basins.
Thank you.
Marianne, I could respond and just say, it just doesn't strike me as a risk that's significant enough. Just that's just how I thought about it.
And I will say, after looking at the documentation that's in the packet, I didn't catch the difference between 3 feet and 2 feet, but that makes it even perhaps less of a concern or more of a safety matter, if you will. It seems like a safe thing. Like I said, if it doesn't happen as often as one might fear, I would suspect that we're in good shape. So again, based on the documentation, based on the narrative information that we've received, I'm comfortable that this would be a safe implementation of a retention pond. All right. Are there any other comments, questions? This is the second reading. We did have some questions, and Meg did address all those from our last meeting. So we shouldn't have any other entanglements, but I do want to, again, just offer the public an opportunity to ask any questions, or if the folks that are here want to add any highlights, certainly that would be appreciated. Not seeing anything from the public.
John Bills, BDC Management, 3601 Rigby Road. Nothing really to add other than I shared this with Johnny before the meeting. We've been working with the village now for a few years to get to where we're at, but the last year since we got started, my team that's been out in the field working has just had nothing but great things about everybody at Yellow Springs and working and helping with neighbors and the staff. We saw that going through the entitlements and getting it approved. I was more involved at that stage and got to see a lot of it. So just wanted to say thank you to everybody. We don't always have that good of an experience, and it's been one of the better ones that we've had anywhere in Southwest Ohio. So just really appreciative of everybody at Yellow Springs and staff and council throughout the whole process. So thank you for that.
John, we appreciate that. So tell all your friends. Yellow Springs is fun. I did have just a curious question. How do you come up with the names of the streets?
So there's been different ways. Within our office, we have a few people that normally do them. Sometimes we'll have a builder help contribute, but a lot of times we'll take a poll within our office because we develop obviously here in Yellow Springs, but we develop across the country, and we do start to run out of names.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to think of them. And then you also have limitations in the municipality of names that are already taken. So you have to come up with unique new names. A lot of times we'll come up with themes for a community that kind of goes with that community or whatever, and then we get contributions from people in our office usually.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Because I will sleep better tonight, knowing why Snowdrop Lane is called what it's called. All right, once again, just in total fairness and clarity, any other comments or concerns? All right, so we are closing the public hearing. And Judy, if you could call the roll.
It has been suggested by the professional at the back of the room that we redo that motion just for complete clarity of the whole thing. So a motion to approve.
So I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-41.
So moved.
Second?
All right. Now, Judy, if you wouldn't mind calling
Love
the roll.
to call the roll on that. Thank you. Housh.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, folks, for showing up. We appreciate your comments and all the work you've done. All right, take care. All right, Judy, if we could read by title only, the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 2023-42.
This is approving the form and authorizing the execution of the 2024 through 2028 landfill energy schedule with American Municipal Power Incorporated and taking other actions in connection therewith regarding landfill-generated energy purchases.
All right, thank you very much. Can I get a motion?
I move.
Second.
All right.
Thank you.
We went through this the last time, Brian. I do have a clarification. We are putting that on the account for the PGM on the back, so thanks for pointing that out.
And why does it matter, by the way? Like,
Because that's what we did last time. No.
Okay.
No, we put all of our recs into the account of the PGM.
Gotcha.
So we're actually taking credit for them to where we can cash them in later.
Cool.
Versus taking the upfront cost to where we drop it just to minute.
Yep.
So this was recommended by John Courtney and AMP. We wanted to jump at the opportunity to be able to extend this for another 4 years at the rate that they have provided us, and that's the reason why we're bringing it to you. It's something that we've done in the past, and they was able to extend it.
Okay. All right. So we will open the public hearing and open the dais for comments or concerns from council, as well as the floor for any public comments or concerns. Hearing and seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And Judy, if you could call the roll.
Brown.
Yes.
Housh.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Stokes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now we're going on to the reading of resolution. Did I miss? First reading. Thank you, thank you. All right, first reading of ordinance 2023-43. If you could do that by title only, Judy.
This is repealing and replacing Section 1040.13 Utility Roundup Program of the codified ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio, to allow for the Roundup program to function as an opt-out program.
Can I get a motion, please?
I move.
Second.
All right. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
This is nothing new. We've talked about this a couple of times now, but this is actually an ordinance form to amend Section 1040.13 of the codified ordinances and add the language indicating that all utility account holders will be enrolled in the Roundup program with the opportunity to opt out by calling the utilities office.
And I do appreciate that in the resolution, or in the ordinance rather, there's the phone numbers there, and so it's clear that that is our intention, to make it as easy as possible for folks to opt out if that's what they choose to do. All right, so this is first reading, but we will, if there's any other comments or anything that anyone else wants to add, we can certainly go ahead. Yes, Mary.
So how will citizens find out about this change and about how to opt out?
So I think we talked about that with Amy Kemper last time, that we can put it right on the face of the bill, right?
Correct.
So we'll put the language on the face of the bill. That's at no cost to the village to do
Correct.
that. We could, if you'd like, we could build something into this with a ramp-up program before it takes effect, give them 30 days notice or something to that effect.
No, but maybe if it were in red or something, just so people see it.
You have control.
I think we can make it red on the bill.
Okay. All right. And we've definitely intentionally, I think, spent our time talking about this. I mean, I think at this point, we're coming up on the third meeting.
So,
Yeah, that we've talked about, so, just short of 2 months. And of course, thank you, Mary Ann, for constantly reminding us, that this is perhaps, I'll say from my perspective, a better way to go, and I think we'll see that it will yield much fruit, so we definitely look forward to that. So again, this being the first reading, we will look forward to seeing this again in our next meeting, and we will vote on it then.
Yeah, I'll just say two things. So one is, even if we have talked about it for 10 meetings, that doesn't mean that people are really paying attention. And so I think it's great that we're putting it on the bill. I assume it'll probably end up in the YS News. The other thing I'd like to make sure we do is if somebody like 6 months, 8 months out says, whoa, I paid $1.20 more.
And I want that back.
Yes, that we honor that. So I want us to have a flexible policy about, if somebody realizes, whenever, which I expect that's how we would handle it, because that's how we handle everything else.
Yep.
It could be on the Facebook page and on our channel, local channel, too.
Suffice to say, we want to broadly advertise that we're making this change because it will impact most every residential account that we have at the village. And I say most every because we do have some that already in the program, and so there will be no change to those accounts.
Oh, and also one quick question, maybe for Amy B. Why did we cross out Section D?
There aren't any policies and procedures on file in the utilities office.
Okay.
There is a form to enroll at this point. There'll be a process to opt out, but there's no procedures on file, was my understanding after talking that over with Amy Kay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for that discussion. All right, now on to the first reading of Resolution, interesting, 2023-80. Judy, if you can read that by title only.
This is authorizing the interim village manager to enter into a contract with Tech Advisors LLC for information technology support services.
Okay, can you motion?
Second.
Okay. All right.
I can start, and then Bartley and his team is here
Yeah.
that can answer questions.
You're looking at me like, I'm not going to.
This is to get us where we need to go to get back under contract with Tech Advisors. They have been doing a good job at getting us up and going and maintaining. There is some increased cost, but there is also some increased cybersecurity stuff that we need. We also got some failing laptops and equipment that's 5 years plus old, and costs have went up considerably. So I think I can let Bartley explain the majority of it better than I can because he's the IT professional.
Absolutely. Come on up, Bartley. Thank you.
Well, I would say that my name is Bartley Davis with Tech Advisors, and it's been absolutely a pleasure to work with the village as a resident of Yellow Springs. I very much appreciate and feel like that I'm part of the family here, so I'd entertain any questions that you might have.
Bartley, if you could just for the general public that might not know as much as some of us probably know what Tech Advisors does, if you could just highlight some of the main services that you provide to the village.
A lot of it is in the background, so we monitor the systems, make sure that everything is healthy. We install patches for all the machines, including the servers and the workstations, laptops, all of those things. We monitor up and down situations. If something is down, we know immediately that the servers are down or the connection is down. So we have a pretty wide viewing of the health of the village's systems.
Okay. So you are effectively our IT department.
We are your IT department and help desk. We have a help desk that anybody on the village staff can call for help.
All right. Great.
So I guess I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Yeah. So when I report suspected phishing, is that part of our retainer? Is that-
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
And I guess the other couple weeks ago, I had to download Adobe, and somebody helped me do that. Like, that's part of the retainer too?
Yes.
Okay. The one thing I was a little bit confused about was the part of the contract that talks about how it doesn't cover replacement of devices. So I guess we're covered for, it looks like 64 devices or something, I think I saw. So I assume that's something different from when we like upgrade a computer.
Yes,
Okay.
if there's something that's being replaced, like a piece of hardware that's failed, that is not inside of the contract, if you're purchasing something, then that would have to be purchased by the village. We don't hold an insurance policy.
Oh, okay, so this is more about like the equipment itself, not the
Right.
coverage of the equipment. Okay, all right.
We're not an insurance policy.
Gotcha. All right, that's all I had. Thanks, Barley.
Thank
And
you.
they changed that today. It's actually 63, not 64.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there was a loaner PC that was.
There was a loaner that was in that system.
Okay.
So how much does that change the dollar amount?
It didn't.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Bartley. All right, well, thanks. We are moving right along, and this is a great pace. I'm happy, and I hope you all are happy with the rate at which things are going.
So you wanted to vote on that resolution?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just so excited. I'm
Sorry to interrupt the flow.
on the second page of the agenda, man. All right. All in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. The motion has passed.
I think it was Santa Claus coming at our last meeting. I think that's made a shift.
Yeah. Well, I think Brian with his jacket has
Yeah.
helped me keep
See?
the flow going. I think that's important. Yeah.
Well,
so-
if the Grinch can come to the next meeting, that would motivate me.
Any volunteers? Be gripped. Okay. All right. So, Judy, we are now to Resolution 2023-81. If you could read that by title only.
This is authorizing the interim village manager to enter into an agreement for the sale of village-owned renewable energy credits and the purchase of green E-certified RECs.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion, please?
I move.
Second.
All righty. Johnny, that's
It is me. Now, we have been doing this for a while, if you can remember. It started all the way back into June. We've actually reconnected with John Courtney, and he's come in and gave some presentations, and we reached back out to AMP. What we have is a modified version of what we started with, and I'll explain the reason why. We're not done with 23, so what we did is we backed up and we only want to sell 21 and 22, but we'd also expressed interest in making sure that it was 100% renewable, which meant that anything that we only get 50% of RECs on, we would buy another 50%. Anything that we buy off the market, we would also buy to replace that. So I'm looking for that memo that I had that would tell you exactly what we needed, but, we're on purchase, let me just say, we're selling 42,579 RECs, but we will be purchasing 63,326. What that does is it allows the village to put on their website. It allows us to let the businesses know they get insurance credits and things like that, that we are 100% renewable energy. And so I think this is a good thing going forward. The estimate for selling the RECs or buying the green RECs is at $3. So these are estimates that they've given us to be able to go out to the market. And then they are looking at $18.11 to be able to receive on the purchase side, for a total of $572,263.13. And then we could see where we are in the end of 23, end of 24, maybe in 25 do the same thing if council chooses to do so.
And I want to commend Mary Ann again, as well as Amy Kay, and I was involved with the process as well, of putting together a REX policy. And that policy does indicate that the revenue from the sale of these renewable energy credits goes directly back to the electric enterprise.
Correct.
And
I know, I didn't see that in the description.
yeah, and up to, given the right circumstances, up to 15% of that revenue could be diverted to various other projects.
I think it will be unless there's a financial crisis kind of
Correct.
situation.
And it is for renewable, municipal renewable sources. So we can do it for solar and other projects.
You know, I think, let's have that policy in our next packet.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comment?
Just a few quick things. Okay, so prior to 21-22, we don't have any RECs to sell, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We've already sold those.
The arbitrage opportunity here, was it the same as the last time? Is it the Pennsylvania stuff, or was it?
It is.
Okay. And, yeah, I just want to commend on the thoughtfulness around 100% renewable in terms of our green e-credits. That is something I think, I kind of wanted like an explosion on the page or something about that. So, yeah, I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, that is big, and Gavin, I do recognize you. Yeah, that we've had conversations before where we've talked about, our percentage of our energy sourcing being as close to 100% as possible, and maybe there had to be some fudging of the numbers to make it look as good as possible. Well, with this or these transactions, we'll be at 100%.
100%.
With no fudging.
Correct.
Okay, cool, good to know. Go ahead, Gavin.
Yeah, so since I'll probably be here in 2 years, just so I'm learning and understanding the way this works, so do you expect that we'll generate this many RECs again, you mentioned like in 2 years?
We would hope so,
Okay.
but we don't know what the market's going to do. If the market maintains what it is, there's a possibility.
Okay, so the number of RECs is related to the market, not just the price?
The price.
Okay, so
The
we'll get the
RECs,
same
okay, so
number, but just it depends on what the market is? Okay. So then, how did the prices change? Well, let's start with the first question. What happened like since June? Can you just help me understand, like, was it just like an administrative thing, or like, is this the kind of thing that if we wanted to do it again in 2 years, we need to prepare for it 6 months in advance, or how does that work?
The short answer is no. Short answer, the ball was dropped. But we also learned some things with the John Courtney coming in and speaking with us and letting us know that, we could purchase these extras to make it 100% renewable, which we should be doing. If we're going to get money back to put into our system, then let's spend a little bit of extra money and make sure that we're 100% renewable. The ball was dropped. That's the only thing I can say. AMP has been on board with us, and there was some miscommunication going back and forth. We've now got all that straight, and moving forward, we have that communication line. One thing, let me back up to your question. There could possibly be more RECs to sell depending on the amount of power that we use.
Okay.
So if we ultimately have more power usage, that creates more RECs.
Okay. So did the price change much in that?
It actually dropped about $1.10.
Okay.
So these are estimates as well. So this is the minimum that they'll allow it to be sold for.
Okay.
This is the minimum. So they could come back and say, hey, we was able to buy the green E's for $1.10 and we sold them for $35, and we'd all jump up and down. So these are the minimums and the maximum.
Okay. Do you think when you put the REC policy in next time, could they just give us a chart of like what the market has looked like for RECs over the past, I don't know, 5 years, something
ask.
that just gives us a sense? It just feels like we have some learning to do about how does this market work and how might it impact our finances. And then, so with this money coming in, so because this wasn't in the budget, right?
It was not in the budget, correct?
So then what does that do for our, obviously the big change is on the electrical side.
Correct.
And this is a pretty significant amount of money for the electrical budget. And what's the electrical budget for next year?
4.7.
Okay.
But
So it's a, okay. So it's a,
4 million is power cost.
okay. So is the assumption that would we, basically, what do you imagine that we would do with the money, and or like when should we talk about that?
So I'll go back to John Courtney gave the presentation, and Mike Kaiser finished the electric study. This should cover years 1 through 5 of improvements that we need done. So this, I envision, would go into the capital funds to where we don't have to borrow, we don't have to wait. We can actually start nailing these items off the list and getting things moving forward.
Okay. And the general,
Sorry.
go ahead.
So the gradual increase that we saw in the presentation, that incremental increase, that will be offset by selling,
Correct, selling of the recs.
and then that 500, what? 527? Or 572? 527?
572.
572.
I wrote the
So
wrong
that 572
Yes.
will kind of, that'll answer that incremental increase.
Yep. So let me go back to a very important point that I need to make. 572,000 sounds like a lot, but we just spent we didn't, DDC did. They bought their transformers for 52 transformers for DDC Plat. It was almost $200,000. So this money is not going to be sitting long. We just did $110,000 on regulators for the switch station. So this is very fast turnaround to where we can start buying and making purchases and getting things moving so we can stay even keel.
All right. Any other input? All right, thank you everyone for that. So regarding this resolution, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. All right, citizens' concerns. This is the part of the meeting where we open up the floor for anyone in the village, anyone affiliated with the village, to express concerns regarding any subject matter that is not currently on the agenda, even if it was on the agenda and got struck out. And Judy would be your timer that would hold your comments to 3 minutes. So the floor is now open for citizens' concerns. Hi, Dino.
Hello, everyone. Dino, Pallotta, resident. I want to make a clarification for the YS News. I'm not a member of YSDC. I've not been a member since July, so just as an FYI. Comments. Home Inc., Village Council, village staff, taxpayers should be offended by what took place 2 weeks ago by the comments from St. Mary's Tim Bett. Between reductions in land prices and waivers and tap-in fees, how much of the taxpayers' money has been donated for affordable housing because of St. Mary's involvement in projects? Quite a bit, I believe, that you've done towards this. The village has willingly and justifiably spent money on affordable housing projects in the past. And then to be disrespected by Mr. Bett of St. Mary's stating that we are not committed to affordable housing and he made you look elsewhere for projects was insulting to all of us, to say the least. If one of my vendors spoke to me in this manner, and I spend thousands of dollars with them every year, they're out. They're fired. I would dismiss them immediately for that. It's sad that Mr. Bett of St. Mary's put Home Inc. in this position because, you know what? we like to support our local businesses. And I know, Emily, we may not always agree on things, but you know what the bottom line is? I'm going to support local business no matter what. I expect the same and respect. That's how we work here in the village, and that's what it's always been. For him to throw shade on all of us was just really it was unacceptable and unprofessional for everybody that deals with this. No matter what apology may come going forward from St. Mary's, it's going to be a feckless apology. And what does that mean? It means nothing. It's a useless apology. The toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. Things were said that shouldn't have been said, and it hurts us all. I mean, we are committed. You all are committed to affordable housing, and for those comments to be made was completely. There was no reason for it. It was not. I'm going to take my marbles and go home, is what it almost came out to appear, and that just doesn't sit well with me, with you guys. It was a disrespect to staff that put their work in. It was insulting, and I expect better, and I hope we can move forward with this, but it's something that we're not going to forget, and we hope that we can move forward in a positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Dino. Any other citizen concerns?
Jonathan Platt. I'm a resident of the village. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk for a very brief second about StoryChain. I'm pretty obnoxious, so most of you probably know what StoryChain is. I've been calling every single person I know in the phone book. So thank you, Yellow Springs News, for the red phone book. I went through 180, I called 180 people. Emily, your phone doesn't work. Well, I'll call tomorrow, and I'll invite you. And this is what I say to everybody on the phone. I say, Wednesday, this Wednesday, December 6th, from 4 to 6, anybody from the village, come to the United Methodist Church on the second floor. That's the corner of Winter Street and Dayton Yellow Springs for yummy current cuisine food, some refreshments, and light banter about criminal justice and social justice in Greene County. We'll also give a presentation at about 5 o'clock. It'll probably include my TED Talk talking about what our program StoryChain is. And it really is, I know I'm going to run out of time. The reason why this is so urgent and so important and to bring Yellow Springs together is the mental health. We're spending $75 million on a new jail, and they're already breaking ground. There's a bunch of trucks already over there. They're putting in the pipes. The trailer is there, so they're locked in. The contractors are being paid $75 million, and not one dime is for mental health. Not one dime. And I got that verified. And I know that the mental health money is going to come in, but how do you put mental health in a jail industrial complex? Because that's what it is. It's a dead end. Go down to Greenway Boulevard in downtown Xenia, right off of 35, next to Aldi's, and you'll see it. It's going to be a jail industrial complex. And rather than trying to abolish it or go against it, I think there are some other very important creative grassroots tactics we can do, and that's reaching out to the families, reaching out to the children of the incarcerated. There are so many children in Yellow Springs whose parents are incarcerated and we don't know about it. And I am determined to really bring the community together and find these folks that need it the most. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And I have flyers. Can I just leave them?
Where are they?
I'm going to put them right. Are they on the table? Okay. I'll put more. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
All right. Citizen concerns. All right. Hearing. Oh.
I can say something.
Sure.
My name is Rob Shiver, and I've lived in Yellow Springs for approximately 15 years. I love Yellow Springs. Bought a house here 5 years ago on High Street, South High Street, and have my son living there. I lived there 3 years. He's been living there about 5-6 years too. And I live in Middletown, Ohio. I have a home in Middletown, Ohio, and I have a duplex down there, and that's where my residence is. And I've been reading the newspapers every week, and it tells me a lot about the stories of Yellow Springs. I sold a lot of equipment to Morse Beam Safety Supplies for my company, my mother's company, Shivert Safety Supply. So I was very familiar, a long time for Yellow Springs. And I graduated from Bellarmine College, business, and emergency, and also in psychology. The home that I bought in the last 5 or 6 years is right next to the residence of 421 Dayton Street, and it butts Don Beard and Christine Monroe's house. Since I've been living there, 3 years I lived there, there's been at least 10 dogs barking in that yard, and that's the complaint that I have. They have not, we've made at least 25 calls complaining about dogs barking there. It's literally a dog kennel in Yellow Springs. I would like, with all the problems that you've had, and the reason I came out of this because I saw the problems that you were having with noises down at the Gulch and the other places in town, and I wanted to kind of come down and get a feel for what was going on. I talked to Mr. Burns today. He referred me to talk to Megan, and I talked to the dog pound. I've been talking to the dog people at Pound down in Xenia. And the bottom line is the complaints have not been answered as far as the constant barking of the dogs have been a terrible nuisance for us. It's just constantly. It literally comes down to Don Beard disrespecting us as a neighbor there, and tying it to the the nuisance problems that you're having, which I think you've kind of remedied it. I don't see it being in the situation right now, but I wanted you to at least put it on the docket to try to limit how many dogs are there. You have there's 7 registered dogs right now in Xenia on the books right now, and I understand at the end of January all the dogs have to be registered, and there's another dog there now barking. And I've talked to Mr. Turner, he's over the area, and if there's any way that you guys can look at this, put it in the docket to try to at least limit how many dogs can be there. And the responses from and I think I'm very happy with the captain. She's worked real hard to give us answers, but it's coming down to all they're doing is warning. They have not received one ticket that I know of these 25, of these constant complaining about the dogs barking. It seems to me that we should get it on, and I thought Mr. Burns told me to talk to Megan and go through that subject, and maybe we get some understanding of what's going on. The whole community has problems with the nuisance of dogs, obviously.
We're over the 3 minutes at this point.
So just want to at least bring that up to see if it could be looked into, and go from there. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your concerns. It does sound like the complaints are in the right hands. Okay. All righty. Once again, citizen concerns before we move on. All right. Seeing none, we are closing citizen concerns. And it's time for special reports. All right, so it looks like we have Street Supervisor Tanner Bussey here to tell us about streets.
Well, while he's getting up here, I'll say Tanner has been here, I've been here 10, he'll be here probably almost 12. And he started out as at the bottom, and he's worked his way to the top. He does a great job. He's
Middle management, not quite.
So you should be up here. I'll change. So he does a great job. He also got more staff when you allowed us to venture out and hire some more staff. And he's also helped turn the pool around, the parks, ball diamonds. We didn't get very many complaints this year. He did some major, or at least I didn't get them.
Right.
So
Well, he's in charge.
Exactly, he's got it. So I will let Tanner take off with it.
All right.
Well, so in 2012, when I started, one of my first projects I was involved in was the CMOM study. I evaluated myself, including an intern at the time, all 623 known manholes. Before, it was just all institutional information. Nobody knew where everything was at. It had to be found, they had to be assessed, they had to be looked at. Well, in those days, my lack of experience and understanding of what was going on, I didn't really quite know what I was looking at. It looked horrible in a lot of places. Now, fast forward 5 years, and I've worked my way up since then. I had, at the time, shortly after that, I got my wastewater collections 1 license. After that, got 2, which is the highest license you can have in the Ohio EPA. So when we took over in 2018, we started rethinking what was going on, what the prior regime had done. We took a comprehensive look and thought about it, and what we decided is that we were going to first start by video recording what we had. There's a scale, the PACP scale, basically. What it works out to be is 1's beautiful. 5, it means it's horrible. You have less than 5 years before you have imminent collapse. So, with some of my experience that I'd had in the 6 years prior, we knew some areas. So we didn't know exactly where we were going to start, exactly. But we had some areas circled in, so we just started. So in those days, in 2021, once we had the system root controlled, which takes care of the roots inside, we had it cleaned, and then we had it cameraed. Once it's cameraed, they score it. They do call-outs. They let you know where there's imperfections. So in 21, as you can see, we did about 1.5 miles. What we found is that we had about half that needed immediate help. So everything that scored a 3.5 or higher, which means essentially that there's less than 10 years of life left in the system, we had slip lined. So therefore, in those days, you were looking at about $1 million a mile to dig up and replace. Now, mind you, that's almost 6 years ago. And with some of the scope of the projects that we've seen go on since then, we've seen how much that people are put out a little bit. Driveways interfered with, roadways not being able to go through, the noise, the construction noise that goes on for months and months and months. So we found a different way. We slip lined the pipe. And this has been going on since about the 1950s. It started in Europe, came over here about the 1970s, and ever since then it's been just getting better and better. So as you can see, this is one of our spots. This is right in front of Mills Lawn. That doesn't look good. It looks like somebody's colon. I don't know.
That's exactly
It looks
what
very
I thought.
bad. It looks very bad.
All of them look like someone's calling me.
So once we started, we were forced to do some point repairs. So when we dug it up, this is what we found. If you can see the 2 foot by 2 foot concrete chimney, it looks like, that comes out of the top. Well, that had been below the surface of the road for umpteenth years. Nobody knew existed. All this information was institutional. So we found it, we had to dig it up, and as you can see, there's a hole in the pipe. I&I is a real problem, and we're trying to figure it out. We're wrapping our heads around it. So we dug it up, we found there's a giant hole in the pipe. Okay, we knew it looked bad. So this is what we did. We cut a hole, we hydro-excavated it, we put in our shoring, we put in fern cones, and we put in PVC. PVC is good forever, with the exception of UV light will deteriorate it, cause it to crack below ground. It has a high C factor, which means it's slippery. It also is almost impermeable to roots, and it's almost impermeable to infiltration from water when sealed correctly. This is sealed correctly. We don't have to worry about this spot again. But this is the same spot when it was sliplined. So it went directly through our point repair, and it made it continuity, gave it the continuity of pipe that we need to continue not to have problems. So here's Dayton Street and Walnut Street. There's before, there's after. All these little issues, the imperfections, you see the longitudinal fractures, cause backups, and eventually they'll collapse. If we have a collapse, we have a major problem. We have a very old system in a lot of places.
How deep is that?
That one is about 8 feet deep. It's 8'9". It's one of the deeper ones in town.
So Tanner, when you say the longitudinal fractures, you're talking about the like
Goes all the way around.
Okay, so that's what is why it looks bad.
It's one of the reasons, yeah.
Okay.
And as you can see from the picture here, you can see that it's hard to understand the distance and the length when you're looking through a small camera. That's an 8-inch pipe, and you can see that there's multiple circles that you see. Mm-hmm. Well, each one is VCP, vitrified clay pipe, and it was state-of-the-art 1930, and it was out by 1970. Then by the late 70s, like if you use this, that's because your system was you were too broke to buy what the cutting edge has been since basically 78. Everybody's used it. But it's 2-foot pipe and it's stacked. It's not mortar joints. So, and with the town that you live in and I work in, the street trees, the amount of trees and vegetation that we have finds its way to water. And this is very nutritious water. And these are non-mortar joints finding its way to very nutritious water. I can get real geeky on some of this stuff, so you'll have to bear with me. And then here's the final step is we rehab the manholes that were in between the lines that we slip line. Rehabbing the manholes. So we installed calcium aluminate, which means that we grouted all the walls. We put in new chimney seals, which means the groundwater around the top of it that infiltrates it and comes down no longer exists. Something that in 2012 when I was assessing manholes, I thought, holy crap, it's rust and it looks horrible going down these walls. Well, we're fixing that. There's 623 manholes that we know about. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not convinced that's all of them. I know we just found one the other day when we smoke tested. So, and then a lot of our manholes didn't have benches, which is basically the flat bottom, and then there's a curve cut out at the bottom where the water can go through. So we have access to clean pipe, to visually inspect, because this is all below ground. So we rebuild those. And then the final step is put in pipe flashing, which the slip liner is basically, it's a sock that's carried through the line. It's expanded with steam and hardened, the resin's hardened with steam, and it expands into the space. Wow. So what it'll do is, it'll fill up all the imperfections. So the imperfections that you see before sometimes will always be there. It dimples laterals that come into the manholes, which is also a big part of our problem because they're clay. And for years, people have broken into the pipe, shoved their pipe into it, throw a little mortar around the outside if you're lucky, and move on. Well, there's a new standard in the village these days, and it's been like this for a few years. And so when this comes through, it dimples that. So when they come through with a camera, they come through with a little robot in the camera, and they cut out that dimple, which will seal in the old sewer laterals, which again helps prohibit some of the I&I, the infiltration and inflow of water that should not be in our system. And here's what the same manhole looked like before we started and when we were done. Kind of looks like it's covered in ice cream. It's an epoxy. It sets up in water. There's two different options, calcium aluminate that's white, and then there's the epoxy finish. We've done both. I think this looks better. I'm not sure the effectiveness always of one's so much greater than the other, but I can tell you that for a fact if you have infiltration coming on this one.
Tanner, before you move on to this one, can you talk about the EPA and your inspection?
So about a month and a half ago, I had multiple long conversations with our OEPA rep, which is even more nerve-wracking than sitting in front of y'all. So she had questions about what our system was, because as a village, we sit in a caveat that cities don't set it. We kind of, there's a benchmark that needs to be made. We don't have to hit that. I can tell you for the last, 5 years, we've been hitting above what cities have to hit, which means you have to record lines, you have to clean lines, you have to try to reduce your I&I to below a certain threshold. And she asked how we were able to do it, what we're doing, how we're staying active with our system. And I explained to her, first of all, it goes with root control. We put a root control, we have a root control company come in, and we pick out the areas that we're planning on having video recorded and scaled before we decide what we're going to do. And that usually what happens at a minimum 90 days before then we can have it video recorded. So the effective date for the root control is 3 years is what they warranty, which anybody knows anything about warranties, if they're warrantying for 3 years, you usually get more life out of it. So then our second step is having our pipelining contractor, Insight, who we have a great relationship with, come in, clean, score our pipe, scale it, which is the national scale. They call out what they see. Computer does it, the algorithm takes care of the scoring. There's no question there. And then we get to sit down with the data and the recorded information and decide what we want to do. Once we line it, we go through with, like I said before, about the rehabbing of the manholes. I explained this whole system to her. And she said, I'm paraphrasing and I'm speaking for her, the hearsay. She said, that's great. I wish more municipalities and cities would do exactly what you're doing. That you're taking a comprehensive approach to fixing an old system and making it new again.
That's Yellow Springs.
You must have felt good about that.
Yeah, we're fun for developers, we're fun for the EPA.
Well, and I want to say that I appreciate it because this took a lot of faith from the council, because these things take money and time. And when you spend a lot of money, you expect results in a hurry. Now, while we're spending 10% of what we would spend if we were digging it up, it still takes faith, and I appreciate that. It's allowed my crew to save time and for the whole village to have good results. And we're going to continue down this path. Well, obviously, if you all will keep letting us go down this path. Right now, it looks like we have about 30 miles of infrastructure. We know that we have probably 12 miles that this isn't going to need to be assessed for a while. So we're working down the path.
Okay,
We just need to keep going there.
good. Well, we're on a roll.
So, is it okay?
Yeah.
So I think you just answered, because I wrote down, how many total? So you're saying we have total 30 miles, of which 12 miles are essentially new enough that you're not worried about them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
And so then the 27,000 feet, so let's do, what's the math here?
It's like 5.2
So are
miles.
there some left? Like over the last 3 years, you've done 5. So you have about this many, like you want to keep up this pace?
I think it's going to be about a 10-year plan.
Okay. And so is this in our budget currently?
It is.
To continue on this pace?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not like we have to do something more or different. We do what we've been doing, we're able to keep up this pace, and you think this is an appropriate method to maintain our sewer system?
It is.
Okay.
Well, and contractually, the contract goes for 5 years of what they run the numbers for. Well, we got in when it was first adopted, and we ran out that contract. So we were still spending like it was 2018, so we were getting our value for the buck. We know where it's going to go. It didn't raise substantially like we were assuming it would, or we were guessing. So we got pretty lucky there.
The other thing that Tanner's been able to do with the extra staff, instead of contracting out for all the spot repairs, that would have been $10,000 to $15,000 per hole. Him and his staff was able to do those spot repairs for dollars just for the material, and they was able to do all the spot repairs. Even though the one was 9 foot deep, they shored it up. We have the shoring equipment, and they was able to handle that in-house, and then the Insight come in and shot through it.
If you look at one of the pictures, you'll see my work boots, because we literally cut it, we dug it, we repaired it, we filled it back in, and then just today, we did that asphalt restoration.
So it's intriguing that we are exceeding the requirements that the EPA levies against villages, however that works. It would seem, therefore, that wherever there was an opportunity for some, if they do exist, EPA grants, correct, it would almost be like easy picking for us to qualify for one. I don't know how often they come along. Is there?
There is, and we did easy pick $1.2 million on the water fund, and we are, choice one is actively, they look every week for new sewer opportunities, new streets opportunities, so we're actively, every chance we get, we're grant finding.
Okay, good. So it seems like it should be, once again, yield more fruit. Correct. That's the second time I've said that tonight, but well, good. That's awesome. Awesome. Alrighty. We're going to talk
Now
about
on the snow.
Yeah.
Moving forward, yeah. Winter's coming.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I would be fine if we didn't need any of that stuff, if any of the stuff coming up here is. But here we go. So this year, we're introducing a new brine system. It's water and it's salt. There's no other adhesion agent. Some people like beet juice. There's calcium chloride. There's other options as well. This is a pilot program for us. We're going to test this. I've heard counter arguments to both of the other ones. The corrosive aspect of calcium chloride, the fact that beet juice becomes so gummy, it makes everything on the road stick to the bottom of your vehicle. So we're going forward with the brine system. It makes. I'm
So
sorry.
what's the difference between what we were doing and what we're doing now?
Brine is literally just water and salt.
Yeah.
And there's it's an automated system that produces 800 gallons of brine in 15 minutes. So it keeps a constant salinity of 23.3%. Your average ocean is about 36% salinity, if that kind of gives you an idea of.
And before you just were putting salt down?
We're just putting salt down, yes.
Okay.
So the idea here is, which has been going on, it's been put into practice pretty much everywhere except for here, that you put it down as a pretreatment of the road. That it creates an opportunity for there not to be adhesion between any snow, salt. Everybody knows that lives in Ohio that when you drive over your driveway after it's snowed, how hard is it to shovel your driveway? It's nearly impossible. This creates a barrier between that, so that when you go to peel it back up, it comes up. As a plow truck driver, we waste a lot of our time making sure that enough salt is down to provide a safe driving conditions for all the townspeople. We salt every street in this town. We clear curb to curb every street in this town, which is almost unheard of. I tell people that I know that are in the same trade as me, and they say, "You do what?" I said, "Yes. Everybody pays their taxes. Everybody deserves a safe street. If an ambulance needs to come, everybody deserves that opportunity to have them come straight to your house." So this is, if you look to the far right, well, there's the truck that you'll be seeing out on the road. That's a 1,000-gallon hopper that'll hold 800 gallons of the brine, which it should cover about 10 miles of road. Now, you have to keep in account that we have about 30 miles of road, and it's two-way travel. So then, if you're going to cover both lanes, that's going to be, double whatever number you think it is. And don't be surprised when you look down and your roads have these white stripes going down the middle of them. This is all important when we can forecast it. And I know that our last event was about this time last year, and it wasn't quite forecast the way it happened. And rarely have I seen an event happen happen precisely the way it was forecast. You know, when you work for a street department in the wintertime in the north, you become a professional at the weather, and you definitely watch it a lot. So you'll probably see this down when events don't hit, or when we get that weird feeling from our experience that this looks like it could be something. But this is all has to do with, you know, when we have enough time to be able to do it, which means that we have to have the lead time. The areas that we're planning on at minimum are all the roadways, the hills, the intersections, all our municipal parking lots out front here. You all have walked in here in the wintertime. There's a slope, there's a catch basin. It gets slick. We're going to do what we can to have that prepared so that we don't get the call-outs. And then, like I said before, when weather can be forecast with sufficient time to plan for these things, because it does take, it's probably going to take an entire 8-hour day of somebody's work day to put it down in as many areas as we'd like to. And then also, if there's rain events, you put this down, it rains, you have an appreciable amount of liquid precipitation, it'll wash it right off. So there will be times when application does not adhere.
Tyler, quick question. When, in terms of timing, you know, if you're starting to put down, I know in the past it's been salt, now it'll be the brine, and you thought you had a couple hours before the snow began, but wow, it's starting now. Do you prioritize the roads that you start with then, or is there a particular pattern?
We do. We separate the town between two plow truck drivers, between the north route, the south route, and then typically we have a center route. And when we do, we have what we call the main drags, the main roads in town. And depending how you want to do the circle, especially when you're laying down, you can work your way in a couple different ways to kind of weave your way around and make it as efficient as possible. I mean, just off the top of my head, obviously Dayton Street, you have High Street, you have Walnut, Fairfield King, you know, so on. In fact, you live right on the corner of one that we always hit.
And you can feel free to back into my driveway, we'll turn around, you know, make sure your sprayer is still working.
Oh, yeah. I'll write the note real quick. And then here's some helpful tips for positive citizen engagement to allow us to do our jobs as efficiently as possible and as safely as possible. One thing for sure is remove all basketball hoops from village-owned right-of-ways, or it just is off the road. It's not a hindrance, but for us to clear curb to curb so that everybody can receive their mail service, this is what you call a mirror grabber, and they're expensive. And it's dangerous when you don't have a side mirror. It's probably not my best picture I've taken in my life. I don't know if you can tell, but that's Road Street, and then the other part says rail. But Dayton Street is a snow route. That means any time that there's 4 inches of snow or greater, it's required of everybody that's parked on the road to remove their vehicles from Dayton Street. I'd also like to see Xenia Avenue moved to be a snow route as well. You have to think about the fact that our EMS goes through that way. We have multiple just large, it's a state route, there's large trucks coming through. And as a municipality, it is our option to choose what we do with our own roads. ODOT says it's your job, you know, we'll comply.
So you mean Xenia downtown?
I'm sorry?
You mean
Xenia Avenue.
Downtown?
Yes.
'Cause, I mean, not too many people park, you know, once you get out of town, so.
No, the downtown areas, but in all reality, it would be helpful if they were cleared off of Xenia Avenue altogether. It would allow us to go curb to curb. But, you know, most of the times that we're called in is late at night. Everybody's in bed. There's only just a few, usually, but there are a consistent few. So it would be beneficial and helpful because a lot of times when we plow those cars in, they're unable to get out, especially if we have a large event. So that would be helpful if we could move to maybe think about having Xenia Avenue. I would be okay with just downtown. I'd prefer, you know, line to line, you know, corp limit to corp limit, but I would definitely be okay with downtown. Another thing that we find a lot of times when we have snow events is people put their trash cans in the street. They roll, I mean, it's clear, and it's put out into the street, and then we have another snow event. And a lot of times we have an accumulation of snow that's there from events prior, because it remains cold. So then we have to either swerve around trash cans or hit trash cans. We never try to hit them. We always try to dodge them. But I can tell you, everybody that ever saw us hit a trash can swears we did it on purpose. Park cars in the driveway whenever possible. I know that not everybody has a driveway to park in, or Laura has more cars than their driveway will hold. But if we can try to keep them in the driveway, that gives us an opportunity to get all the snow off the streets, and we don't have to fight going around.
So, Tanner, on that point, if there's going to be like this 8-hour period when I know a truck is coming by, I mean, might we be able to get, hey, I want to move a car temporarily around the block or something? Is able, or might we be able to say, I need to park my car on the street, but I can move it for a couple hours when I know you're coming through?
Yeah. Normally they hear us coming. That's when they start running out of the house.
A lot of people pull their cars. I shouldn't say a lot of people. I have seen on multiple occasions people hear us coming going the opposite way and get in their vehicles and pull them on the road. I don't know really necessarily what the plan is behind that. I don't know.
Okay.
But then again, it kind of feeds into another point I have, is that please give us space. We're in giant trucks with 10-foot plows hanging off the front of it, and we're throwing a caustic, well, not necessarily caustic material, but we're putting salt down. That's rock. It's a projectile. Please give us distance. We're not trying to upset anybody. We're just trying to clear the roads, and we can't see 360 degrees around our truck.
One of the things that we noticed in the last couple of years, and some of them is on Splan and other areas, is they will actually back their vehicle out into the roadway and leave it out about 3 feet. Why do they do that? So we have to go around their vehicle and they don't have to reopen their driveway, which makes it very tough for us as plow drivers to do that. And we have seen where they park their vehicles on the street, that we go around them and then move them back up in the road, back on the driveway.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating when you clear your driveway and then we come through and we bring all the snow from the road down the way. It is. I understand. If I could figure out some better way to do it, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you guys right now. I'd be retired.
Teenagers. We'll get some teenagers to shovel us out. Did we do the slide already that had the, I think, -6 degree? Or is that?
Yeah, it was on the brine.
Okay. So when, I mean, so at -6 degree, this is going to freeze. We're just adding to the slipperiness.
That's when more salt comes into the equation.
Okay.
Salt has an activated temperature up to -44 degrees below zero. Once it gets below that, salt is worthless other than being an aggregate that your tire can bond to.
Right.
It's something that gives it something to bite.
Okay.
If we're -44 degrees, we've got big problems anyway.
And the other thing that we don't do, which Township does, is they add sand to their mixture. We do not, because it gets into the storm system, and that's problematic for us on that issue.
Okay. All righty. Cool.
Any more questions for Tanner?
Sorry, I had you back up like that. I was just prepared to ask that question, but I missed it on the slide. Man, well, I feel informed and appreciative as well of the work that's being done. I mean, it all makes sense, and I think these are good, positive decisions being made to make your jobs more efficient and make our lives better. We appreciate what you guys do.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tanner. All right. Appreciate it.
All right. That wasn't so bad, was it, Tanner?
No, it wasn't bad.
Well, good.
See
All
ya.
right, have a good one. Okay, all right, manager's report.
All right. So Tanner is almost on schedule. So Meg has her economic development and the housing in there. She's We got Springs Meadow 2 in for the queue now that she's getting started on. We have the Mylar up here for the Phase 1 that will be going down to Greene County tomorrow. Brian asked a question earlier, and I'll reference it now. Myself and Erica and Chief Burge did meet with the NAG group, and we have listened to some more of their complaints and concerns, and we reiterated what we've been doing as staff to do this. We've also cleared up some misunderstandings that was given to them on things that we could do, things that we can't do. And we've also recommended I'm going to reach out to Village Mediation and try to get them two parties to sit down and talk about what needs to go, what's the next steps. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. The gentleman with the dogs, he is going to reach out to Meg. I've also got to reach out to Chief Burge, and I got to find out, he was given some misinformation from Greene County as well about the dog pound stuff, so I'm going to reach out to Greene County as well. So that takes care of that. You guys may have seen this, may have heard about it, but let me just give it to you straight. It was not our vehicles that was on fire on South Winter. It was actually, we was redoing the tall curb, high sidewalk. Bobcat of Dayton had their service truck there repairing our contractor's Bobcat. They had just finished, and the Bobcat truck of Dayton's service truck caught fire. So first time in 26 years they've seen this, as the gentleman that come out from Bobcat. To make a little bit matters worse, the fire truck showed up and their truck broke when they got on scene. So we had to then call for mutual aid from Houston. In the meantime, things were blowing up and tires exploding. So Bobcat of Dayton is actively working on insurance claims. We've got blacktop damage, but the sidewalk is moving forward. They went ahead and poured curb today, so we're back on schedule and we'll get that completed as soon as possible. So good thing is nobody got hurt. Things can be repaired, and the fire department found out that they had a malfunction pump, and they was able to get it fixed, and no harm, no foul. So let me give you a little bit of update on J&T, the $1.2 million sidewalk grant, or not sidewalk, I'm sorry, 2-inch water line replacement. The security company is reached out, and they got some new bids from previous contractors that have been on our jobs. They have submitted 2 of them to us. We have Matt Hoyne doing reference checks on them now. One of them is willing to start middle of December. Another one's willing to start the middle of January to get things back on schedule and moving forward. They think it's about a 3-month job. I say probably about 6 months. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. We are working diligently to get that turned around as well. Okay. Broadband, the group is making headway. They are getting things back in line, getting some things hooked up, getting billing going. So you and I need to sit down and talk about some things going forward. I did get the 28 questions. I'm going to forward those to you if you don't mind to look at. Absolutely. The playground at Gaunt Park is completed. I've heard mixed emotions about it. It's missing a slide, but we had A package and a B package, and we chose the A package as the first phase. So there is more phases when we can fit in more apparatuses for the kids to play on. So, but it does look good. And I've seen some kids out there playing already on it. So we're moving forward. The multimodal path, they will be closing. Ben will have notification for next week. They'll be closing the intersections on Dayton at High and Dayton at Stafford to put in some storm lines going across those roads. So they'll have some detour signs up, and we'll get public notice out there. That's going exceptionally well. I think they're actually going to have all the concrete poured this year, and then they'll move to the other side of the road for the bump outs, in the spring of the following year, because they want to get it all done to where they can restripe in the early spring and move that line back to the center on Dayton Street. So we have cones sitting out on Xenia Avenue, because even though it's a white curve and you can physically see it, people can't see it at nighttime or not used to it, they're hitting the curb. So we put cones out there. We are going to paint them yellow, but we have to wait a year because there's a wax film on the concrete. So we're going to put traffic delineators on them, like at the corner of Walnut and Limestone,
By
to
the
highlight
funeral
the
home?
bump outs.
Okay.
They're the big yellow,
Yeah.
3-foot things that stick off there. We're going to do that as
Okay.
soon as the concrete cures. We're going to get them put in there. I think that's about all the highlights that I'm going to do today. Samantha's doing Secret Santa for the staff. Judy has got a thing for Secret Santa, so a lot of us have joined in. We're going to do some things for the youth. The youth are going to do some things for us. And moving forward. And Flour and Sugar the final was passed out today. So we gave our first donation to the food bank, and then we will donate the rest of it later in this week.
Okay. All righty.
All right, that's the highlights.
Well, thank you. Questions for Jenny?
Yes. The wastewater treatment under that section, talking about the microorganisms,
Yes.
MLSS. Would you
The
explain?
bugs. The bugs. We have bugs in our wastewater treatment center, and they are what helps the process. Now, I'm not going to go into all the biology because I don't know it, but I will tell you, stay tuned. Brad is coming to do a wastewater treatment presentation. You won't be on council, but you can watch it, and he's going to bug you to death with it.
So bad.
Be here all day.
You waited all evening for this.
I did. What it is essentially, we need the bugs to be able to break down the system.
Yeah. And is
So,
this a new thing? Have we
It
just
it
been-
is not, but we have been keeping track of it now. So we was having some issues with the levels wasn't correct. So we had to see how many bugs we had and really contain them. And then the more bugs you have, the better the process is.
Thank you.
I have a few things. So the bump outs on Xenia, one of the things I noticed is when you're coming out of town, the first bump out at Davis, I like the second one. I like that it's got the little bike lane. But someone did point out to me that it bumps out fairly quickly. Did you find out if we have the Shero stencils someplace?
I will double check.
Okay.
Let me correct you. That is not a bike lane.
No,
That is a stormwater raceway,
Oh.
because we do not have stormwater in there.
Oh, that's not for the
And
bike
that
to go
is,
through?
no, sir, that is strictly for stormwater.
Wow. Huh. It would have been nice to have a little bike thing. But anyway, it occurs to me, since we've got Sheros on the, I guess, north side on Xenia, it'd be nice to pop some, right around there as well. So if we still have those stencils, that would be
Okay.
great. And that would be a good, I guess, opportunity. Looks like the ones on Xenia, the other ones are holding up okay. South College, do those still?
That's the one, yes.
Second thing was, the bump test on Fairfield.
Yes.
So what data or how are we collecting data?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I actually forgot about that. We have the speed trailer prior to the speed bump, and now we have the speed bump, so the trailer's still sitting there, so we'll be able to see how that worked.
Okay.
It is doing a little bit what I thought it was going to do. Well, not a little bit. We're now getting complaints for people speeding on King Street because they don't want to go to the speed bump, so they're racing down King going to Dayton. So if you remember, I said if we put one or two on Fairfield, they're going to turn and they're going to King. Next, we're going to be putting speed bumps on King Street. The other thing they're doing is they're actually going around the speed bump going into the yards of the neighbors. So we had to actually put cones and barrels out there to keep them from doing that. Or they'll stop and they'll rev up their engines before they go over. One lady, I will just say, there was a post about somebody beeping their horn going across, but one lady had concerns that every time she went over, her horn was blowing, and so she may have something mechanically wrong with her car. But we have seen it. It's been working.
Yeah.
But there is some people just don't like it, and they're speeding down King Street, or they're causing trouble in the neighborhood, trying to. Jason, I can tell you, he's a big fan of it. He said it has. He cannot believe how well it has worked.
I think it works really well. And also, I mean, I know we got the complaints about how it's going to affect, certain service vehicles, but I mean, that bump is like nothing.
I can tell you, I personally drive over it every day just to be able to say that, okay, I've been doing it. 25, you're good. What I like about it is it's a temporary situation. That one will be taken up in a minute with a plow truck.
Right.
So if these are the way we're going to go, then we'll make them the wider, more gradual. And I agree, Brian. I'll be the first one to tell you, I was one of the biggest complainers about it, but from what I've seen, I'm okay if we want to start, figuring them out. But we got to watch how we do it, because as soon as we put 1, 2, 3 on Fairfield, then we're going to be doing 1, 2, 3 on King. Then we're going to have a dozen or 2 dozen on Dayton Street.
Yep. And then I guess the only other thing I was just thinking about with, because I like the new format that we've got for the manager's report. I feel like it's great that we've got a housing committee. And by the way, on broadband, Kevin and I have both been involved, so probably good to loop me back in, because I usually think about the marketing side of things. But it occurs to me that we should think, especially in the new year, about how to be more intentional about our economic development piece, and better coordinating with the YSDC and other entities. I love the activity that's happening, but it seems like we still haven't initiated some of these other things, like the slide deck for the CBE and so forth. So I think as we're talking about who's responsible for what on council, that might be a good one to have somebody.
On the economic development side, I'll tell you that I have got pricing for a sign to be able to go out at CBE, to be able to advertise it. I want to get some more clarity on which way to go with council, to be able to work with Lisa and the YSDC to try to advertise that. I did check with AMP this morning. For some reason, it had taken one of the lot number 2 out there at the CBE, for some reason, was not being posted correctly. So just this morning, I worked with Tim to get it back online to where it was advertising for the CBE on the largest parcel.
Good.
But it went into some unknown status. So.
Well, and I guess this is a good opportunity, because I've continued to read the thing about how we haven't marketed the CBE. Correct. But I guess I do want to remind folks that we, in collaboration with Cresco, did have a series of articles in the Dayton Business Journal. So there was activity to promote the CBE. I'm not saying that that's all we need to do. And we did get some inquiries from that. So anyway, so I don't want it to be forgotten that some effort has been made. Correct. And we can do more. Okay, thanks.
Good. I just have one quick question. Yep. So the gas aggregation thing, is it just still stuck with the...
They had a meeting
DPO?
on last Wednesday. I was not able to attend. It was up in, I believe, northern Columbus, so I will reach out to them today or tomorrow and see if I can get an update on them. Last I heard, it was still in limbo because of Centerpoint.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for village manager? All right.
Thank you much. So we're to new business. We've got a few items here. Looks like I'm teeing up the CBE follow-up. As I said in the last meeting that I would commit to reaching out to the other two covenant partners. I did do that. We did get a response from AUM. I asked Judy to share that. I'm sure she's got that out to the folks involved. I was advised that I would see something from Cresco Labs. I have not seen that. Well, let me check before I finish my sentence.
Well, so what did AUM say?
Effectively, they are asking that they have some more detailed information, and even named a plan, a plan for what the project would look like before they would commit to making a decision. And again, I know Emily has that information.
So what it looks like, and then where? Is that the...
Well, the plan would, if they saw the plan that they're saying that they would need to make a decision, that plan would clearly indicate where, what part of the property is being considered. So they're asking for a detailed plan, effectively. Okay. And so we haven't heard back yet from Cresco, although I was advised that I would see something and just haven't gotten it yet. So I did reach out again today and haven't gotten a response then. My outreach right after our last meeting, the response was, yes, something will be put together. I mean, I don't want to speak publicly for them, so, they surmised what part of the corporation the message would come from. And so we will just wait for them to work through their process. Okay? So as far as I am concerned, whereas I did commit to making those outreaches so that we are in a position where we can get some sense of engagement or involvement from the other covenant partners. Again, we've done that. We've gotten one response. We can debate about how helpful that response is, but still waiting to hear from the other. I am certainly intrigued by the comments that were shared at the last meeting about next year being possibly same circumstance, and what that gets, and where Carmen was questioning Tim at our last meeting, one thing that he said was, yeah, we've been in other circumstances where there were covenant partners, but those covenant partners were talking when we showed up. We don't have that issue. We have the reverse. Covenant partners hadn't been talking and didn't know we needed to talk on any current issues until after this proposal was brought up. So we're behind the curve, if you will, for in comparison to other communities that St. Mary's has done this kind of thing with regarding covenants. So just suffice it to say that the covenant that exists was intentionally created to be very, very restrictive, and there's a high hurdle, for making changes. So what we're asking our covenant partners to consider is not a small thing, but these are, for the lack of a better word, large school and then a corporation, that have, chains of command that I'm sure these things have to go through. But the response has been positive in terms of, yes, we understand the circumstances and we want to get a response to you. Yes.
Yeah, I thought that the conversation that happened at our last meeting, the whole conversation was very helpful and very good. And the point where I sort of had a sort of an aha moment was actually, Carmen, when you asked the question of Tim, because he said that, well, a lot of communities say, no, we're not interested, go away. Or they say, yes, we're interested. And the communities that say, yes, we're interested, say that because they not only have a vision, but they've come together with a plan, and they've got their ducks in a row so that when an opportunity is ready, they're on it. And I felt, actually coming into that meeting, I felt much as Tim did, and I had actually told Emily I felt very cynical about the possibility of really any significant affordable housing happening in Yellow Springs, and I really appreciated him saying that. I did not feel offended because, in fact, I felt that way myself. And I just want to say, as I'm sort of walking out the door here, the only way it's going to happen, the only way we'll have effective affordable housing is for the village to collaborate with Home Inc., St. Mary's, the Development Corp., and whatever financial other agencies can come together. Home Inc. isn't going to be able to do it by themselves. The village is not going to be able to do it by itself. And the Development Corp has said they're interested, and they're not going to be able to do it by themselves. And I think if we can get out of these boxes that we tend to be in and really say, okay, we're not only interested, we not only want it, but we're going to do the negotiating and the hard work that it takes to come together to do it. And as I left the meeting, I thought, well, what if instead of thinking of this Center for Business and Education as only for business, what if we have to start looking at economic development and housing together? I mean, we can't pit one against the other, and they're equally important. What if it's the community for business and education? What if it's a place that intentionally includes housing? And regardless of whether it intentionally includes housing, what if there's a vision for what we want that place to be? We want it to be a certain place. And I don't think we want polluting industries. We don't want a lot of noise. And then start looking for how can we get it to be what we want it to be, rather than just sort of, trying to find someone to fit in the space.
Really quickly, since you referred to me, I asked him specifically, in his years of experience, how many times has he run into a situation like this? And he didn't say never. He said, well, usually. And I did find his language to be a little bit off-putting. To say that we don't care when some of us are experiencing housing insecurity is completely insulting. Maybe not for those of us who have secure housing, but for those of us who don't in the community, that was very off-putting. And it was, you don't want to do this, so we'll just go someplace else where people are more interested. And that was incredibly insulting. He doesn't know the community. He doesn't know our interests. He doesn't know our values. Yes, it's a nonprofit, but it's still a corporation. And that it was really off-putting. And I wanted to say that because I think that essentially you're coming into someone's space and telling them what they do or do not have convictions about.
So, I guess who's working this? I'm trying to figure out so the idea of, so as I understand it, there are other properties, there are multiple properties, not many, but a little handful of properties that score well. Are we I'm just, who's working on this? I'm just trying to understand, because when we left here the last time, I guess I was kind of expecting to get some kind of a, like, here's the update, this is what's going on. And I'm just,
I'm sorry, I do have something else that I can add. So, and I don't know where this is going to go. You know, if we were presented with a plan, then yeah. So if AUM wants a plan, we don't have a plan.
Right.
So there's that piece. But in 1964 and in 1973, Sturgis Vernay purchased that land. And those restrictions initially, I haven't been able to find the original deed from that first sale, but I spent about an hour in the recorder's office. If someone puts those kinds of restrictions, we do not want residential here, especially somebody, you know, that has a contaminated site adjacent, well, you know, across the street. Why? And that's a question that needs to be asked. Now, I know that everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter or whatever, but there's a reason.
Well, I guess we shouldn't have put a school there either then. So I guess since we're all weighing in.
That's different than living someplace.
What's that?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
So I also was not offended, and I thought that was a reality check for us, honestly. And I'm compelled by something that Dino said and also put in, you know, I think multiple letters, which I think was what Marianne, you were trying to get at was, you know, council needs to make the decision, say we're committed, and then do what we can within reason, which I think is what we're doing ultimately. So
is anyone going to make a motion to either continue or not?
Well, we're going to run this thing to ground. You know,
But we actually have
what
not, I mean, we have not ever formally made a decision that we should keep moving forward. So I think what Carmen's asking for makes sense to me.
Well, let's define moving forward. What?
Well, for example, we never officially talked about the fact that we were going out a retainer for some of this work. So I think maybe some of us, you know, expected that or whatever, but that's supposed to be part of our process is that, you know, we talk about any financial implications and then we agree to move forward. So
we I won't say whether we disregarded the process, but we dispatched staff and our solicitor to investigate the circumstances, the covenants, the zoning, you know, so we did ask for that, and every question has not been answered yet. So the team, we are still doing what we asked staff to do. So if the question is, do we want staff to keep digging? Do we still want to get responses from the other covenant partners? If that is the question, I suspect the answer is yes. But if we ask the question and the possibility is no, are we saying we just drop what we said we would do, which is to ferret out, you know, what it would take to move forward with a potential project?
One of the things that I find problematic with this whole situation is that staff was tasked with things to do in addition to their regular workload without council really knowing. The body didn't know what was happening, and we're getting bits and pieces of information from several sources. There's no continuity in the information, and then we're expected to make a decision when we don't have, A, all of the information or a plan in place, and staff has already been tasked with working on this thing that we don't know anything about, and the body didn't know about it at one time. This should have been a more cohesive thing from the very beginning. We should have all been made aware of what was happening, and then we move from there, and decisions get made that way. It's been so scattered and so disorganized that it's been an incredibly off-putting experience for me personally.
I think that's in, not every piece of it, but the piece about that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, who's in charge of it, or how are we, like, what information are we trying to gather? And then I think what you were starting to talk about, Mary Ann, is sort of like looking forward. We've got all these interested parties, like who should be talking and who's encouraging people to talk and who's, you know, getting past hurdle one and figuring out what the next hurdle is. So it has been a tricky process to engage with, and I guess I'm just trying to figure out where are we. Honestly, I thought there was going to be more development since the last meeting, so there was going to be more information. So now that we're here, especially given we heard the last meeting, it seems like the clock is running out. I mean, if it hasn't already functionally run out. Right. So I don't know.
And that's what I was alluding to.
This isn't going to happen this year. I can't see it happening this year. So either we're going to come together and we say we want to do something and we're going to figure out how to do it and where to do it, or not. But I won't be part of that.
So, Emily, come on up.
I'm Emily Seibel, Executive Director of Yellow Springs Home Inc. And yeah, I just want to agree with what everybody said, that this has just been sort of a muddled and challenging process, I think, for all parties. But at the end of the day, you know, we are a Yellow Springs nonprofit serving the community, and we brought you a sort of rare opportunity. I don't know when it'll come around again, and we know the scoring works for 2024. I agree. I think the ship has sailed. I don't think that we have time to put an application together for 2024. Just back when we sat down, when Meg and I sat down and sort of backed away through the necessary steps for in public noticing and public meetings and what would have to happen at what point. I mean, early December is kind of the drop dead date, but it is likely that the scoring will not change a whole lot from this year to next year. So it happens in 2-year cycles. The qualified allocation plan comes out from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, and it changes a lot every 2 years on purpose so that different geographic areas and communities will get a piece of the pie. And right now it's working for us, and I don't know when it will again. It hasn't for the last 15 years that I've been working on this stuff. So I think I've heard from various folks on council and in the community that maybe a next step would be to accept that we can't make it happen for February of 2024, but put some kind of team or ad hoc committee or group together through the housing committee, whatever makes sense with everybody's capacity, and look at every site that scores well and figure out what the challenges are and come up with a both and where all parties get benefit. Maybe the result is there's more land for commercial development than there even is now, plus housing, plus, you know, but really get the players together and create a vision, because what we know for sure is that anything on this side of Enon Road, which is pretty much the whole village, doesn't score high enough to apply. That sucks. I wish it were different. It's frustrating and it's not fair, because the Glass Farm is a great site, Quarry Street's a great site. We started with those, but we don't make the opportunity index map, and it's set for 2024 to 2025. Now, what can happen is little changes. They do make little changes within that 2-year cycle from one year to the next, and that can have a major impact. It could throw out, you know, this potential project. But I think it's a risk that we're willing to take because it's a relatively low risk compared to how much it changes every 2-year cycle. So if folks are open to it, and I would love to continue talking with the YSDC, with the Village of Yellow Springs, with property owners, with whomever, to see if we can work something out collaboratively that achieves multiple public goals. That would be my offering and suggestion. I think I would be happy to spend my time on that. So.
And Emily, I really appreciate your comments, and that's where my head is. That's why I mentioned the 25 cycle. And then we'll have time, and to Gavin's point, there are other 94 there's not 94 projects. There are other properties that scored 94,
Yeah.
on the scoring map. So to your point, spend the next few months, couple months, I ferreting out all of that, because we were laser focused on this one out of probably 3.
I mean, I think there are significant challenges to every potential area. The big one being that probably the most likely alternative isn't actually in the village, so then we're talking about annexation and the cost of extending utilities and some other factors. And then there may be one, I think you mentioned that to me, Carmen, that there's another one. But yeah, I think if we could put a group together, or maybe it's through the housing committee, I think the most important thing is that we're not all spinning our wheels and missing each other, and that we're working in tandem to do something that's going to benefit all parties.
Right.
And I think that's what would be best for the village, at least from my perspective.
Agreed. And let me just, before you said, Emily, ask this one question. You alluded to the fact that the scoring or the rules could change a little bit just from one year to next year.
Yes.
Does that necessitate a new map?
No, the map is 2024 to 2025 map. So the
Okay.
map, well, I mean, unless they veer from tradition, which they've been known to do, but I think the map is set.
Okay. So we know what we've got to work with.
But they will, because of the input that they're getting from the Select Ohio, the Housing Committee, Karen and OFA can rework the models a little bit. Because one of the things I was looking at when I was looking at the scoring tool, it is not for municipalities of our size.
I know.
So we have, there are only like 131 municipalities in Ohio that have between 3,000 and 5,000 people. We have the same problems of these larger municipalities, but not on the scale. And the model doesn't allow for that.
I agree. I think if there were changes, we're probably going to see them when the next opportunity map comes out. But we can lobby. I mean, we can push and try. But I think that it's a very low likelihood, because they'd have to sort of re-examine their methodology, and it's a big undertaking. But yeah, I mean, we've already been providing feedback that the opportunity map doesn't really make sense in a community of our size. Because Enid, there's no magical opportunity shift when you cross Enon Road. I mean, we all know that. I mean, it's ridiculous, and I've been getting a lot of pushback, but I wish it weren't that way too, and we can certainly convey that to the Kerr-One Institute and the Ohio Housing Finance Agency.
Okay. So I think I believe that we're committed to really, again, as I said, run this thing to ground, and I don't see this as what I see is we probably have, the clock will run out for trying to submit an application for February of 24.
Yeah.
But I believe we can do the work. Once we get more answers, we can do the work of preparing for an application for February of 25. So, if council feels we need to,
I think the best approach is, based on all we've discussed, to let the housing committee talk about it, then have a proposal. We have a new council member coming in. We make a vote on our commitment next year, and then we go from there. So, but it sounds like that can all happen.
yeah, right, good. I appreciate that, Brian. And so, on that note, we're going to go to the housing committee presentation.
Well, actually, are we going to just skip over everything? And I see that, can we recognize, or do we have time to recognize Dino Pallotta?
Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thanks, Cameron.
It's real quick, and it goes to what you guys are saying too. It's a sales thing, It's still, I think, the decision's got to come from you guys first, not pushing it off the housing committee. You guys got to commit to whether you want to do this or not. But even more importantly, you have to, it's like we're putting the cart before the horse. You guys have to figure out what the strategy is. Is this a strategy to go forward with? Can we overcome these covenants? Can we not overcome these covenants? Are we going to get, again, turning to AUM or Cresco to make a decision for you guys is not, it's taking the easy way out that you don't want to be the bad guy in this. You want to make AUM or Cresco be the bad guy if they say they're not going to go along with it because they're part of the 75%. You need all three of you. So again, without a plan, and you're going to Cresco, without a plan, you're going to AUM, they're going, I want a plan.
Right.
I want a plan. If I don't have a plan, you can't make me make a decision, and you guys can't even make a decision. So that's where that's where my pushback comes on this whole thing. It has it has a lot to do with the CB, of course, but if you can't make a decision on this, you guys right here to vote on it and say thumbs up or thumbs down, how do you turn to AUM and how do you turn to Cresco and say, we want a decision out of you? I'm not giving you a decision. I just won't. I mean, they're not going to give you a decision. That's straight business. I mean, you all should know that. You're gonna not that you're gonna bully them, but you're forcing them. You're forcing a hand, and they're not going to give it to you. They're not going to respond. They say we're going to respond in a timely fashion. Whatever their timely fashion is, it's not going to be on your side.
So, really quickly, I'm sorry. I think that I tried to make a motion that we leave the CBE and St. Mary's alone. And then another discussion started happening. And because right now, we've expended a lot of energy from everybody, a lot of time, which equates money, on a thing that we don't even have a plan for, on a thing that probably can't happen where we would like for it to happen, even though it's like the perfect place. So I am going to move that we take the St. Mary's Home Inc. development on CBE off the table for now.
So, is it okay?
Are there any seconds?
I mean, my understanding is everybody acknowledges it's going to go away, that it seems like it's not possible this year.
For me, it would be really, I mean, it would be nice for several people involved, several community members involved, for me to take it off the table officially. That's why I made the motion. If that's not anything that the body doesn't agree, if I can't get a second, I can't.
So, hearing no second, that motion has failed. Gavin, did you finish your comments? I wanted to say a couple of things.
Yeah, it's a complex conversation to have here. Dino, I guess I feel like I understand the basic idea of council needs to give direction. I think that we talked about it at a budget session. The question was, hey, do you want us to look into this? The answer was, yeah, can you look into it? We had a memo that covered many of the topics, but not nearly all of the topics. This piece of like little bits of information have come out little by little from different sources over time is absolutely the case. So the idea that there was I don't think it was that unclear. I think council said, hey, we want to look into this. Tell us what the dynamics are. We didn't get that until, arguably, we haven't ever gotten it. And up to this point, I'm still wondering, hey, what's the full scope of this? Where are the possible pieces of the project? Who are the partners that are relevant? What do they think about this? Who is following up with them? So I don't see it in the same way that it's like council didn't provide direction. But I am still sitting here at this moment going, okay, so if we're going to take it to housing committee, I'm trying to make sure that we're not going to have the same dynamics play out where it's like, what is the interaction between staff and council, stakeholders outside of staff or council.
You mean general housing, not the CBE? Are you still talking about the CBE?
And just to be clear, when I'm talking about this, when this first came to us, the way it was presented to us, as I first heard it, was there's scoring, OFA scoring.
Right, I understand that. What I'm asking you specifically right now is, are you right now talking about CBE going to housing committee?
So what I thought we were talking about is talking about low-income housing tax credit availability based on the OFA map. So it's not as simple as simply CBE.
No, okay, so what I'm talking about specifically, and what I moved toward or tried to, was the CBE land. That's what I was talking about. Okay.
I get it.
Okay.
I think what I've heard.
Because what's happening right now, really quickly, I've heard from Emily, I've heard from Dino, I've heard from other concerned citizens and people who have, kind of skin in the game. And it's like we're just kind of spinning our wheels about this particular project. Now, if the body is content to do that, then I will do as I am guided to do, but I need some guidance.
Yeah. So I'm not comfortable with the phrase spinning our wheels. I mean, we have spent professional man hours on researching and finding answers to questions. There are still questions unanswered. And if I'm understanding, if Emily and I are in agreement, where I'm thinking is, A, it's not just CBE, it's every possible property, whether it needs to be annexed first, that's a consideration. You got to look at that piece of dirt and decide whether you want to annex it. Pick another one. It's got this issue of there is no perfect. None of the three that I think I'm aware of, if I look at the map, none of the three large parcels are perfect. So, but what I'm envisioning happening is for the next several months, a team, and, I don't want to talk about how it's formed, whether it's driven by the housing committee or however it's, but the fact that we believe what Marianne said in principle, the way this is going to happen is going through this low-income tax credit program, whether St. Mary's and or Weiss Home Inc. are the applicants, as Amy B. alluded to at the last meeting, whether the village is the applicant. I say we get the information because we do want this to happen. Whether it's at CBE or one of the other properties that might be better for various, or they're all different, they all have different challenges. So I'm suggesting that we will move forward. The timeline is such that we probably can't get in a decent application for February 24, but we can for February 25. So I don't want to discount CBE as one of the three, or however many there are, but we do a comprehensive look at all the possibilities to put ourselves in a position over the next few months to put together a good application so that we can be approved for the funds on property that would be appropriate.
I agree with all that.
Okay.
Except for the piece right now about the CBE. Because we're not,
CBE doesn't have to be a hindrance. We're going to get an answer or we're not going to get an answer.
But probably not by the second week in December.
Therefore,
February.
The clock has probably run out for February 25.
How does that work?
So we need to move forward.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think what you're saying, Carmen, is you're saying let's acknowledge that it's not going to happen for February of 2024.
On the CBE, but let's keep moving.
But let's
keep looking at all
options for 2025.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't want to. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good looking out.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with that, assuming that I'm not hearing any objection that there's anything that's going to happen this year. So I'm not.
I think we've all said that, and we're kind of just repeating ourselves.
Yep. So let me, Brian, I'm going to have Johnny make comments, and then I am moving on to the Housing Committee.
Okay, I just want to clarify something, Gavin. We have, staff-wise, I don't want to speak staff, we have done our due diligence. We have brought you processes as far as council. I'm not going to just say to you, Amy Blankenship's looked into this. She's offered other suggestions. Here's what we can't do. We as staff can't make AUM or Cresco send us their results. And we as staff we can't create the plan for homing. So I feel staff-wise, we have done everything possible. And if I was to tell you how many hours staff has had, Friday night staying in here late, the meetings that we've had, Zoom calls that we've had, you would probably not even get close to the amount of hours. Let me also say, I am the only person on this staff that Home Inc. has not reached out to still today about this project. I brought it to you when Meg come up and...
Wait, can I directly respond to that, Johnny?
Okay.
We met right after you started, and I said, who is the staff designee? Who, you're very busy. Who do you want me to talk to?
I said Meg.
And you said Meg Leatherman, and I've been respecting you and reaching out to Meg.
So to go back to my point, when Meg brought it to me, then I immediately brought it to council at the budget session to see which way to head. That's the only thing that I was getting to is, I brought it to you as soon as I knew about it, to be able to start down the process to see what we needed to do, had covenants on it, I brought that back. You said again, please move forward to see what we can do to get it working in that right way. So that's, I don't know if there's anything else that...
No, not from you guys, no. I'm talking about the communication from
So unless there's
I mean, I found out about it from a friend of mine that happens to work at Cresco. Like...
So, unless there's something earth-shattering to be said about this, we are moving on to the Housing Committee membership purposes and priorities.
So what's supposed to happen next, Kevin?
So, if you want some formal acknowledgement, that the 2024 clock has run out,
I'm not worried about that. I'm asking about where are we going in terms of communication going forward? What is the expectation?
So
I heard a couple different people say the Housing Committee's expected to do it. What is the...
I fully expect the Housing Committee to take the lead on this housing issue. Now, I know you all are just still formulating your policies and whatnot. If y'all need to bring other folks in, I don't have a better, that's my expectation, I don't have a better answer for you. The CBE's got a role. I expect there to be an all hands on deck at some point. And whoever those hands are, please, I expect YSDC to be part of it, housing. So go ahead, Lisa.
First, I want to acknowledge Emily's decision or her public acknowledgement the clock's running out. I think you're helping to make this decision, so I appreciate that. Personally, I don't think that this is something that the village can run. I think the village needs to help remove barriers with whatever propositions are brought forth, but I do not think that the village is in a position to run this project. That's my suggestion. I would ask Home Inc. to run it and pull in whoever you need to pull in.
Very well spoken. I agree. I think when I alluded to Mary Ann's comments, I said I agree the only way it's going to happen, is somebody applying who knows how to run this, how to do this stuff, and Home Inc. has a proven track record for doing this kind of stuff. So there's no reason why they would not be involved, or I don't know of a circumstance when they would not be involved. So I was excited at some point when I flipped over my agenda. We were so far ahead. I am less so now. But there's been a lot of good discussion. I don't want to discount anything that anyone said. Everything that has been said, I hope, has been informative enough and helpful enough to move us closer to nirvana, whatever that looks like. So, is the Housing Committee team willing and able to present?
I didn't know
I mean,
last time you said that you wanted to say a couple of things at the beginning, but we didn't, we kind of didn't.
oh, I don't remember. I think we just didn't have all the stuff in the last packet, right? So it was just a
Yeah.
matter of putting in the packet and then opening up for feedback. I guess I would just comment that we're trying to figure out how to best set up an entity that can serve what I think are relatively clear concepts around our interest in housing, but then to start drilling down into having some more specificity of what are our goals and who does what. And so this first meeting was really just a matter of trying to get some parameters in place so that we have some sense of how to, where do we draw the line between how does the village engage and how does the village not engage? Those kinds of questions. So I think the main thing would just be to get any feedback, from the group. That's all I was thinking about.
Yeah, and I think, it's exciting to me because it basically would avoid the entire situation that we're having right now with the whole CBE property and discussion. Like, if we could get this established, the framework, the whole intent is that if someone has a housing project idea, a really exciting opportunity, we have somewhere to send it right away. The reason that, we're having you, at least my intention with putting this in front of you, the document that was in the packet, titled Housing Committee Organizational Framework and Priority, was to basically make sure that the council kind of bought into it, because part of what we need for it to be successful is the council also kind of playing a role in that, and that if you are contacted by someone with a housing interest or development, that you'll say, oh, yeah, actually that goes to the housing committee, and that the staff would also commit to that as well. We'd be like, yeah, well, that's a wonderful idea potentially, let's go to the housing committee, and then the housing committee will kind of reestablish its priorities every year and maybe have some more specific ones. But I think this next year, kind of what we were hoping was just getting the committee going, which I think we had a really good first meeting and we've had a really good interactions on that so far, but would be keeping that going, but also creating like more refined goals and like what we call like a local housing strategy. I think we were, because we only had one meeting, we had put it on the coming up agenda, like it could be January or February, to talk about, which is like, I guess, the elephant in the room of who would be on the committee, who the committee members would be. We realize that that is something that's still out there, that a decision still needs to be made on that. It's still something that we want to discuss. We literally didn't want to get the cart before the horse I worked with Gavin pretty intimately on the agenda, and then this document, we didn't want to go too far along the road before we brought it to council to get your support of it. And same with when I brought this to the committee, the housing committee, I wasn't sure that it was really draft. I didn't know if everyone would review it and be like, oh, this is so not at all what we're thinking, because I'm new to the community and I don't want to assume that these are certain goals and priorities just based on little bits that I hear too. Also, just to put this in there, being so new, like when I worked in couple other, one municipality and then I guess it was a county, they each have a different way of communicating with their elected officials, and this has been new, very different to me. I actually like how open it is, that, how engaged everyone is and how much everyone just really gives their strong opinions and stuff, because then you really know where you stand, and it's just, you can really be effective, but it is kind of painful. Like, I think sometimes too, like it is today. It's kind of painful. But I think it has a really good, I can see how valuable it is. But it's taking me a minute to get used to. I don't want to say anything and jump in and say something that someone will take the wrong way, especially being recorded. So I'm really aware of that. And so, I don't know if you see me sitting back here, I'm really soaking it all in and I know I'll continue to adapt and evolve and probably have a lot more to say as we move forward and I get involved in things, because I like to actually, make my own opinions and get all the facts. I'm very fact-based. So anyway, sorry. I have a lot of thoughts. I do, and I feel like jumping in sometimes, but I also feel like I'm not quite ready yet, to form my opinions too strongly. But
Can I add just
Yeah.
one thing about the membership? So I think, and Brian, you're there too, so just if any of this feels like it's a mischaracterization, obviously speak up. But I think in terms of the membership, the basic conversation was, let's get our legs under us a little bit. Like, let's take a couple months and just figure out what we're doing here, and then before we bring in other people that have something to actually work off of. So that was sort of the main tenor of the conversation, was like, let's get something sort of workable, and then let's revisit the idea of additional membership.
So we could one idea, maybe just to get your thoughts, we can go section by section. The first one is the purpose. I don't know if you guys, it's just on page 1. We took the purpose and crafted it based off of the housing policy from the comprehensive plan. We thought the reason behind this was just that the comprehensive plan was fully vetted with the public. There was a lot of public engagement. I think hundreds, if not more than that, maybe 1,000 people were involved in crafting it and crafting the language. So we took that, the housing policy, and then added one word into it to emphasize family, that we wanted to focus on developing housing for family in addition to low-income workforce and senior households that result in a mixed income, environmentally sustainable neighborhood. And then it just goes through the next paragraph talking about how the committee will provide recommendations and feedback to council, like very specific to, like, example is the CBE property and the housing, the low-income housing tax credit opportunity is exactly perfectly situated to be in this committee, because that's the overall intent of what we're saying the purpose is. And then also would provide staff feedback as well. And we looked at I guess historically, the housing committee has been housed not through the council, but actually as underneath the arm of the village manager. And I mean, I don't know for sure all the reasons, but we thought just because it's how it's been historically that we would keep it that way. It would be basically under the administration of the village manager. It just has a little bit of different, maybe public meeting laws and stuff that apply, but not too different, I don't think. So I guess before I move on to the committee priorities, I wanted to, do you guys have any thoughts on just the purpose? Any questions or thoughts on the purpose?
I think the purpose is great. I think leaning on the comprehensive land use plan is the right way to go, because you want to know what folks expect. And that's been the latest thing that's been sort of a read of the community's temperature regarding use of village-owned land. So I think that's great. I mean, I like the idea of considering the varying degrees that the Boeing housing needs analysis talks about the various types of housing. Not so much the numbers of each types of housing that Boeing says. Are you in agreement? Yeah. Yep. Well, no. I'm saying it does. I'm saying I don't necessarily agree with all of those numbers. I think the different types are right. The numbers of those, I don't know how right that is. But we'll do what we can. We need some of everything, and so we should do some of everything. And so we'll get there. So I think you just asked about the purpose. So,
Anything else on the purpose before I move to priorities? Supportive of that? Okay. All right. I feel like I gotta win. I feel like I gotta win. Sorry.
And since you're looking for a win, I am under the impression that today is your 6-month.
Oh, that's right. It is 6 months.
half anniversary.
Half a year.
Yay. So you are legitimately all the way with us.
Yes, thank you.
You're part of the team, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, I didn't fail. I passed inspections.
I don't have any holy water to sprinkle on you or anything.
Right.
I've got some spit.
Holy water, yeah. Thank you. Maybe later.
But welcome, and welcome once again. And thank you for all that you've been doing.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, so for priorities, we kind of based it, going off of the purpose to some degree, and I think the priorities will probably be the thing that will be amended the most since we're sending the low-income housing tax credit project to the Housing Committee, because we have basically identified what we would focus on for the next year, and so that would definitely change then if we're going to take on this, because it will be quite amount of work. I mean, even if we're not the applicant of low-income housing tax credit, even if we're not the applicant and we're not that heavily involved, we will still, as staff, have a lot we would have to do. I mean, it would still be a lot of administrative support that would be required. And just giving them the right information they need to do the job successfully, pulling together the fees, pulling together, all the property documentation that we've had for years and years. I mean, we did that. That took me like 16 hours, I think, of time doing that. So and then we'd probably have to scan in, and I mean, it's just a lot of work still. Yep. So anyways, the number one priority we had was just ensuring the committee is functioning effectively. And then the second one was, which again, this could potentially be one that changed, identify and develop village-owned property for affordable and or low-income rental units. The second one was crafting, you guys have it in front of you. I guess I don't have to repeat it. The third one was crafting a village housing strategy, so set specific goals, benchmarks, definitions. And the fourth one was just, again, providing feedback to staff and council about effective housing projects under consideration. And we purposely put them in this order, with the fourth one being project specific, so that we could keep focus on crafting the housing strategy and moving forward with some type of housing, affordable or low income housing project for 2 and 3. I guess, working on the fly here, like what your thoughts were on this and how these might fit in. I think we'd have to remove 2 or 3 if we were going to then focus on low-income housing tax credit project. We would need to move like priority 2 or priority 3, and overall, just generally, if you have feedback on, how the priorities in general, I'd like to hear them.
I mean, I think when I look at these priorities, I mean, I don't necessarily say that, well, one is probably the first thing you want to do above the others, but beyond that, 2, 3, and 4, I think those things can sort of float around depending on the circumstances. Like you said, if the low-income housing tax credit consideration is thrown in there, either it needs to make its own place or it moves one of the other existing things up a bit. Yeah, so I think being flexible there, I think is good. So you got 4 priorities.
Yeah.
I think they're all important. 4 is just as important as number 1. When you have a list that short, I don't think you have to say that 1 is the penultimate and you get around to 4 whenever you can. I mean, they're all important.
I think that if we're committed to affordable housing, then I think that prioritizing, the tax credit housing is way up there and working toward that. And I was involved initially with the advisory committee for the village manager, former village manager, and quite frankly, that wasn't what we were focused on, and I lost interest because now that we have the development that's coming in, now we have a big part of that Bowen housing study stuff taken care of, and we should prioritize there. It's time. Apartments is sitting right back there.
Yep. Oh, you mean the person who said it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also not on the housing committee, so you can take that with a grain of salt.
Okay.
Well, I am, but I'm taking a step back until we can prioritize.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Looks like you got the all clear.
No way, you don't have anything else to say.
I helped. I mean, I gave you detailed feedback.
Yeah, you did.
When I put this together, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the big thing is the membership, and Gavin, you alluded to that.
Yeah, sure, okay.
I would submit that we go broad and try to be comprehensive. Everybody who can spell housing is a qualified member. Someone, folks who do work
Yeah.
in the area of housing. Why leave out, some expertise if we know it exists?
We've had some interest from Dirk, whose last name, he has two last names,
Lakovich
hyphenated.
Van Gorp.
Lakovic, yeah, Van Gorp.
Huh, okay. I haven't heard that.
He works for Clark County.
Oh, wait, I think I did,
Dirk.
an email.
He's been here.
Yeah.
He's been
Okay.
involved a couple times, but
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, we do have it on the schedule on the next housing committee agenda to talk about that. And then we can, Gavin or Brian, do you have any thoughts on, should we just wait and to talk about membership at the housing committee because it's coming up the 14th?
I think we've heard from Mary Ann and now Carmen that, what we had already said about eventually expanding the tent. But I'm also, I like Lisa Abel's idea that, our recommendation for the CBE exploration may be to have Home Inc. take the lead. So again, I agree, we don't have to do it all. So we can advise council on how to move forward.
Okay. All right. I guess that's all I have then. That's all we...
Okay,
All
cool.
right, thanks.
Thanks, Meg.
Thanks, Meg.
Thank you to everyone on that one. So, Carmen, we moved the board and commission communications and replaced it with the housing group that you attended in Marietta.
Yeah. So today I attended one of many Ohio State Senate Select Committee meetings on housing. This one happened to be in Marietta because it was focused on southeastern Ohio and central Ohio, Appalachia, and rural communities. It was held on the campus of the Washington State Community College. There was a great deal of testimony from central Ohio Appalachian neighbors concerning safe, affordable, and adequate housing. And the testimony that I was hearing from the mayor of Lancaster and the president of southeastern Ohio Habitat for Humanity mirrored the stuff that we talk about. It's so funny because we, at the end of the day, we are just a rural community in Greene County, in a rural county in Ohio. And we do share a lot of the challenges. So some of the main talking points or the things that are really sticking out throughout the testimony is that the challenges is that affordable rental housing or the need for affordable rental housing is outpacing the practicality of pursuing home ownership. It's just not practical, and it's incredibly problematic. So primarily challenges facing rural communities in Ohio, especially destination towns like ours, Athens, Yellow Springs, the Hocking Hills area. General consensus is that the large driver of the economy has gone from industry or minor industry to tourism, right? Which we see. And so that feeds the service industry and short-term lodging. It's simply more profitable for people to purchase investment properties with cash or rehab and flip them or put an ADU on their property, and instead of taking them back into the market as rentals, when they can have a one-bedroom apartment and rent it for $800 a month, or they can rent the same property for $300. And this has decimated Hocking Hills, especially Nelsonville. There's so little rental housing in Nelsonville that now there are some families who are living on Hocking Hills campus because of the lack of rental housing, because of the Airbnb market. So that's one of the things that was being talked about a great deal. And then we were talking about building materials and the inflation and the cost of building materials and the cost of labor going up exponentially over the last couple of years. And so we heard about 3D printing houses, and Southeastern Ohio Habitat has a program where they're working with 2 career center type campuses in 2 counties, I think Washington County and I can't remember the other county, where they're actually having the students offset the cost of labor because the students are making the modular homes on site, and then they're being brought and put together by students too. So that's one of the things that came out of it. But ultimately for me, the main takeaway is that we ain't so different. We're not as different as we think we are. And a lot of small communities, like I said, that 133 between 3,000 and 5,000 are facing the same problems. Investors are coming in, buying up dilapidated property, flipping it, buying up dilapidated property, turning into Airbnbs, placing ADUs, and then turning those into Airbnbs too, and the rental housing is not going back into the market. So that was my takeaway. It was a 3-hour drive. It was beautiful. It's a pretty country.
Well, Carmen,
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I appreciate you becoming our
All I
ambassador.
had to find out is that I could drive a car.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, you
Bye.
you did. So
I'll do all the things.
Carmen, I see you've got some written notes. If you wouldn't mind putting together sort of a report of the things
Sure,
you found,
absolutely.
so that we can have that maybe in the next.
Yeah, it'll be better too.
Yeah, well,
it'll be comprehensive.
No judgment. No judgment. But thank you for that, and that's very, very informative. And of course, I know we did get a response from the folks that received the letter that Mary Ann and I think Brian put together. So that was well received as well. So go team.
Right.
Good work. Thank you very much. Absolutely. All righty. New business, ain't none. On to future agenda items. And we had an opportunity to do an agenda review to consider new business, so there's none, so we're going to go ahead and run through that. So we're now to future agenda items. So there was something said, go ahead, Mary Ann.
Yeah. So for a couple weeks, I have had a conversation with Rebecca Potter, who is still associated with Agraria. She's no longer the interim director. In fact, there was a man sitting here, Eric B., who is the director now of Agraria. He left a while ago. At any rate, today, this morning, Brian and I had a Zoom conversation with Eric, who, as I said, is the director, and he's working part-time at Agraria. And I actually had no idea of the progress that's being made at Agraria on a number of fronts. And Eric was telling us this. So there's a potential for a project involving an in-vessel composting system at Agraria. In-vessel means that rather than putting compost out on the ground, it's contained in a vessel. And there's one in Dayton. And actually, Josue and Rebecca and I and Matthew Salazar went to Athens, Ohio, and saw 2 of these in Athens, where they're doing it, and they have curbside recycling as well at Athens. So I had sent a memo to Johnny and Amy, which was a pretty rough draft, because I just wanted to get initial take, and Johnny's initial take wasn't all that great. But after talking with Eric, I think both Brian and I were going, wow, that these people who came in and are cleaning up this mess of Agraria are really doing good work. So we would like to put on the agenda for our next meeting this proposal that's coming to the village that would involve using money that the village has already spent, that the village already sent to Agraria for the cask thing, to put into this compost project. And we would like to have Eric and maybe another person from Agraria meet with staff before the next council meeting to have a conversation. So hopefully we could get on the same page and make sure that whatever came to council and to staff was thoroughly vetted, and we felt like this is something that we would want to support. So that's what I'd like to have.
So there's 2 components. One is an update from Agraria on how they're coming back, and they've got a variety of projects. And 2 is to see, I guess, ultimately hear about this proposal for community composting. I think folks know that they received a grant for $100,000, so I think we need to decide, if we're going to help them actually use that grant or if they're going to give back the money. And it seems that we have goals around events and around the fact that a lot of other communities less progressive than us are now offering community composting. Seems like we need to get with it.
Athens is pretty progressive, though. I think they're probably a little more progressive than we are.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, but it's not just Athens, right? I mean, It's like Columbus now. Everybody's doing it.
Right.
And in fact, there's kind of a federal mandate to do it, so we probably need to get them together.
So it's a proposal you're bringing?
Yeah. Well, assuming that staff meeting is going to be important. So, Johnny, we want to make sure that you guys meet.
Right. So and so I understand that. So, if you want to have a meeting first and then
Yes.
we actually consider, so from a scheduling perspective, if the meeting doesn't happen, with it before the next council meeting, are we okay with still moving forward? I don't know why it wouldn't happen, but, we'll still keep
Let's
it.
assume that it is going to happen.
Gotcha. But if it slips, we'll still run it to ground whenever the meeting happens and things come. And Mary, you were suggesting the folks from Agraria showing, would they be presenting, or is that what you're referring to, Brian, the update?
Yeah.
From Agraria, okay. All right, so that sounds good. Hear what they have.
The other thing, I was talking to Judy about this, I feel like there are enough substantial changes that we might want to consider having a work session related to what commission leadership's going to look like, and expecting that we've got other changes in leadership that may continue, but I think it might work a little bit better than just trying to come to a meeting and say, I want this, but have more of a strategic discussion around the different committees and commissions that we have. So I wanted to pitch that. We could talk a little bit more about it.
So we talked last time, I don't know if it actually was, I don't know if there's been any scheduling yet or attempts to schedule. We talked about a retreat. We also, in budget planning, talked about some strategic planning type stuff. I'm looking around for head nods.
Yeah.
I got one.
Well, because I agree. I think integrating a little bit of goal talk into, again, like where people are at with commissions and committees. And I think it also would be a nice way to ease Trish in. So.
So yeah, all that sounds good. I guess we just need to, are we calling that the retreat? And I think, Judy, you used the word retreat.
I think the thought, at least what Brian and I had spoken about, was something along the lines more of the meeting starts at 6 o'clock with a work session, first meeting in January, and then, go into regular session at 7 o'clock, but that sort of gives folks a bit of informal time to talk about where they might want to go with boards and commissions or whatever.
So being here at 6 and then being here till 10?
Well, if you let me run it,
Well, we
out of here by.
We shouldn't
Don't you
have to
have
have
a
a long
gavel?
meeting on, that first meeting, right?
Who knows?
It's possible,
Well,
but
I think this agenda was planned out well. I think I would say me, I got so excited about Tanner's stuff.
Right on time. I was like, Jesus.
That's a little longer.
Are we there?
Yeah, I think we've got enough for now. Anything else burning for anyone? All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
second?
All right, all in favor? Just leave? No.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Yeah.
It was fun, no matter how grumpy I might have sounded.